Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Chris Beers.
The State Department approving a $20 billion arms sale to Israel. Congress has 30 days to block the sale or let it proceed.
The Japanese Prime Minister said today he will not be running for re-election as president of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party, bringing an end to his 3-year term riddled by political scandals.
Ukraine saying it's advanced deeper into Russia's Kursk region. Tensions rise as Moscow says peace talks are now being put on pause.
After a Mercedes EV caught fire in a basement parking lot, the car maker today announcing where the battery was made.
Representative Ilhan Omar wins her primary in Minnesota. And former NBA player Royce White dunks on a crowded field for the GOP Senate nomination. We have results and takeaways from last night's elections.
And as summer comes to a close, we take a look back at this year's hottest travel trends. NTD speaks with a travel advisor about the best ways to optimize your vacation experience.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
The State Department has approved a potential $20 billion arms sale to Israel. The Justice Department notified Congress of the impending sale yesterday.
Lawmakers now have 30 days to block the sale or let it proceed. It will be years before the weapons are delivered if the sale is approved, of course.
The anticipated sale includes 50 F-15 fighter jets, missiles, explosives, and more, although the F-15 jets are not expected to be delivered until 2029.
The sale will also include modification kits for Israel's existing fleet of roughly 24 F-15s. That includes new engines and radars, among other upgrades. Meanwhile, the U.S. is urging negotiations, meeting in Qatar tomorrow to finalize a Gaza ceasefire deal. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the Middle East update.
And earlier this afternoon, the State Department's principal deputy spokesperson Vedant Patel took questions about the deal and ceasefire talks. Let's take a look.
On Gaza, Hamas has said it would not take part in a new round of Gaza ceasefire talks slated for tomorrow. Are your partners in Qatar still working to have Hamas represented? And if so, are you confident that they will end up being represented at the talks?
I will let our Qatari partners speak to their own engagements. What I can say is that we are aware of those comments and we fully expect these talks to move forward as they should. And our point of view is that all negotiators should return to the table and bring this deal to conclusion. It is far time for the remaining hostages to be released, which of course include American citizens, and bring relief to the people of Gaza under the deal that is now on the table.
How can they move forward and make progress if Hamas is not there?
So, as I said yesterday, our Qatari partners have assured us that there will be representation from Hamas, and I will let them, of course, speak to that, but I'm not going to get into more specifics beyond that.
Okay, and what are the remaining sticking points or points on these ceasefire talks?
So, as I've said a number of times this week, so I'm just not going to get into the specifics of the ongoing negotiations from a podium. It certainly wouldn't be helpful to an active and ongoing process.
Has language around a permanent or temporary ceasefire been resolved?
I'm just not going to get into the specifics of the negotiations. Jenny, go ahead.
Can I try to follow up with Daphne's question? Hamas said they'd be willing to negotiate afterwards if there's a serious response from Israel. How does the U.S. take these comments?
So, look, I spoke to this a little bit this week when the President of the United States, the President of Egypt, and the Emir of Qatar put out that statement last week. We saw very quickly that the government of Israel confirmed that their team was going to be present and will be at the ceasefire talks that are starting tomorrow, and that they are prepared to finalize the deals that are on the table. I'm not going to get into more specifics beyond that, and we'll just leave it at there.
Does the U.S. consider the proposals from the Israeli government to be keeping in the spirit of what the president outlined at the end of May?
So our point of view is that the contours that the president outlined at the end of May very much continues to be what is shaping this conversation. But beyond that, I'm just not going to get into the specifics of the negotiations. Sean, go.
Qatar and Egypt have announced that both foreign ministers received calls from the Secretary of State today. Do you have any readout for these calls?
We'll have some readouts to offer, I'm sure, in the next hour or so. We'll have some more to share this afternoon, but these calls are in line with the Secretary's continued engagement on the region and the engagement that he's been doing over the past many weeks, talking to counterparts, working to not only stress the importance and the vitality of getting this deal across the finish line, but also making clear to counterparts that any escalation is not in anybody's interest and certainly not in the interest of the region.
Thank you.
A couple of things.
Yeah.
Yesterday, of course, the State Department notified Congress about $20 billion in new weapons for Israel. I realize these won't be delivered for a number of years, 27 and onward. But nonetheless, the timing of this, just 2 days before the ceasefire talks, can we see any linkage to that? This comes, of course, after criticism of some of the far-right members. There was a very strong statement by the Secretary on Minister Ben-Gvir's visit to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound / Temple Mount. Can we see any message in this, particularly in the arms sales?
So, Sean, I think the way to look about this is that multiple things can be true and multiple things can be vitally in the interest of the United States. First and foremost, we are continuing to work to secure a ceasefire deal that would bring home all the hostages, that would help alleviate the suffering in Gaza. That certainly continues to be a priority for us. Simultaneously, we have a long-standing military and security partnership with the government of Israel. We recognize that Israel has a right to defend itself from terrorism and security threats. We also acknowledge and have talked a great deal about how Israel continues to face a myriad of threats in the region, not just from Iran, but also from its proxies, such as Hamas, such as Hezbollah, such as the Houthis. That's very much in line with what we've been talking about this week. And also is true, Sean, that there are actions that we think are counterproductive. We think they are a detraction from peace and stability in the Middle East. We also think that they are detractions from Israel's own security. Those things include what we saw Minister Ben-Gvir do yesterday. It's also when we see things like settlement expansions or things like that. Those are things that are not just inconsistent with international law. They are also, detract from our stated goal of a two-state solution and cause greater insecurity in the region.
Sure. Especially in the arms sale.
Yeah.
You and Matt have been asked numerous times about the use of U.S. weapons in incidents in which civilians were killed. Have there been any further assurances? Is there a confidence going forward with these weapons? Have there been any assurances that more care is being taken that U.S. weapons aren't involved?
There, of course, is confidence, and as I have said a number of times when we've talked about this issue, there is a long-standing security partnership with the government of Israel, one that spans decades.
That was State Department Principal Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel. He's speaking as the world is bracing for a potential attack by Iran on Israel in response to the clandestine killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Iranian territory.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris. He really emphasized this importance for the ceasefire talks that are still happening right now, saying that it is high time to bring the hostages home, but also emphasizing that the U.S. still believes in Israel's right to protect itself. Moving on, Ukraine today claims it's advancing deeper into the Kursk region in Russia. That's as the governor of a neighboring Russian region declared a state of emergency. Here's an update on Ukraine's offensive.
Russia's emergency ministry released this video on Wednesday, showing people being evacuated from a town in the Kursk region. Ukraine, meanwhile, published this video, saying it shows the moment its soldiers pulled down a Russian flag. And the incursion continues. Ukraine's army chief gave this update when speaking to President Vladimir Zelensky on Wednesday.
Since the start of today, troops have advanced around 1 mile in various directions. Since the beginning of this day, we've captured about 100 enemy soldiers.
Meanwhile, the governor of the Russian Belgorod region says the situation continues to be extremely difficult and tense. Belgorod is next to Kursk, where Ukraine launched a surprise incursion last week.
There are daily shellings by the Ukrainian armed forces. destroyed homes, injured and killed peaceful civilians. Therefore, we have decided to declare a regional level state of emergency.
The governor says the state of emergency will help to provide more protection. And President Biden commented on Ukraine's incursion after he landed in New Orleans on Tuesday.
I've spoken with my staff on a regular basis, probably every 4 or 5 hours for the last 6 or 8 days. And it's creating a real dilemma for Putin, and we've been in direct contact, constant contact with the Ukrainians. That's all I'm going to say about it while it's active.
Russia on Wednesday said that chances for peace talks are now much lower after Ukraine's incursion.
And for a breakdown of the Ukrainian incursion into Russia, we're joined by Senior Fellow at the Center for Security Policy, Colonel John Mills. Good to have you as always, Colonel. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his troops have advanced about a mile into Russia's Kursk region since the start of the day. What's happening over there?
Well, thank you, Chris. This is very interesting. The ground war has essentially been a stalemate for maybe over a year. Tactical drones have proved absolutely deadly for any kind of maneuver warfare. And I actually am working on a piece on this for Epic Times. And then suddenly they've made this ground foray in cavalry operations in the U.S. Army, and which I have some background in. We would initially this looked like just a raid. It wasn't intended to hold ground, but I think the Ukrainians have detected weakness and are deciding to stay and expand a further reach into toward Kursk.
Yeah, so can you say a bit more about what Ukraine is hoping to achieve with this?
Well, I think at the beginning, it was just a way to take pressure off of other regions because there's very little tactical warfare across the entire huge front from the Donbass down all the way to the Black Sea. The Ukrainian forces are in many ways outnumbered. The Russians have taken horrible losses, but continue to throw additional resources and additional troops that they lose anyway, and they don't care. This was intended to take the pressure off a daring raid into Russia. This is across the border into Russia. Essentially, it's not been done before, but I think once they started doing the raid, they realized, and this happens in combat, they realized, well, the Russians actually are not defending this area. Let's go further. Let's stay longer.
And Colonel, the fighting is near the Kursk power plant. Is that dangerous? What could come out of that?
Well, it's just kind of like down there, I think it's Zaporizhia in Ukraine, where there's a large nuclear power plant that's been, for the duration of the almost 3-year war, there's fighting going on, and there's concern around fighting around an active nuclear power plant. And I think the same thing here. I believe this is a nuclear power plant, and that's a concern. It gets, could there be a meltdown? Could any of the domes and protective barriers for the reactor room be breached or damaged? Could we have a contamination? Could we have any kind of a malfunction of the nuclear system? So yeah, fighting around a nuclear power plant with bombs and missiles, even to the layperson, that seems like a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, it just sounds bad. Now, a Ukraine military commander said Russia has pulled troops from Ukraine and Crimea to address the Kursk incursion. What could that mean for the fight of the in Ukraine?
Well, that could take the pressure off these other fronts, which could give opportunities if the Ukraine has enough force. I think it's now we're well into fall, beginning to approach fall of 2024. Remember last summer, there was all this anticipation of a grand, large Ukrainian offensive that really never got anywhere. And one of the themes of that offense was potentially to drive through in the south across the line of contact on the Dnieper River and drive down to cut off the Crimean Peninsula. That never really has occurred. This might give an opportunity for that if Ukraine has amassed enough ground force that they could push across at this relatively in the south toward Crimea across the Dnieper River.
Does this incursion have any geopolitical significance for Russia?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if the Ukrainians kept on going in kind of an arc deeper and then start to veer to the right, they potentially could cut off a large amount of Russia from ground contact with Moscow. So this is and again, I'm not sure this was Ukrainians' original master plan or design. Just it was a happenstance. As they pushed in, they realized, wow, the Russians have essentially no defensive force in this area. Let's exploit it and keep on moving. So it could cut off part of Russia. It could cut off all the troops that are the Russian troops that are in the Donbass region, that are further south in Crimea. Guess what? This could. I mean, I don't think the Ukrainians have enough mass to go really deep into the right. But I mean, in theory, if they did, this would be a huge operation that could cut off a significant amount of Russian military force from their logistical supply chains.
Yeah, I can almost hear the surprise in your voice at all this. The story came as a shock to people following the war like yourself. It's developing rapidly, like we're talking about. What should we watch for next?
Well, how much do the Russians panic? How much do the Ukrainians put into this? And again, this is classic Clausewitzian battle. And this is where over several years in World War II, there were massive conflict of maneuver, battles of maneuver. This is Clausewitz, and these are flat, open plains. And this is exactly what Clausewitz would talk about in an envelopment or a double envelopment to surround the enemy force. And the challenge is, once your offense gets to a certain point, your offensive thrust becomes vulnerable on attack from each side. So there's pluses and minuses to this. Again, I don't think this was the Ukrainians' original intent. They just wanted to show a small raid that they could go into Russia. Well, they found once there, the Russians really don't have any military force here. Let's keep on moving. But again, there's at a certain point, that thrust becomes vulnerable in itself.
Well, the Ukrainians have certainly gotten the world's attention. I mean, for the longest time, so many of the headlines were focused on Israel, Gaza, Iran, Hezbollah, in terms of war worldwide, of course, Taiwan, but Ukraine is definitely back in the spotlight. Senior Fellow at the Center for Security Policy, Colonel John Mills, thank you.
Thank you.
Next to the White House, with a briefing, we hear from Jared Bernstein, chair of the Council of Economic Advisor, on the issue of inflation. Take a listen.
I wanted to know, given that the year-over-year inflation rate fell down below 3%, according to the data we got, for the first time since the spring of 2021, we're talking about 3 years. With the benefit of hindsight, do you feel like there's anything the administration could have done differently over the course of the last 3 years?
You know, I think the most important thing we did when I see a trend like the one I would show you if I had a slide behind me, is get to work in 2021 on the clear factor that was so causally linked to the uptick in inflation, and that was the snarling of global supply chains. In 2021, this president started something called the Supply Chains Disruption Task Force. Now, you may wonder, why are we talking about this nerdy little group that got to work low these many years ago? Well, because that group, we're sending our port envoy out to Long Beach and LA to deal with the snarl-ups there, working hand in hand. We never could have done this ourselves. Hand in hand with the private sector to unsnarl supply chains. And as our work has shown, if you look at the contribution of supply snarl up and non-snarl up, and especially if you interact it with the strong demand that was in place over that period, that explains over 80% of the run-up in inflation and 80% of the disinflation we've experienced. So, you can always look back and say things, maybe you could have done differently, but one thing I'm very proud of, and I give the president a lot of credit for, was recognizing early on that by working with the private sector to unsnarl supply chains, we were going to make a big difference in pulling forward the disinflation that we're seeing even as of this morning.
All right, Ed, we got to wrap it up.
Thanks, Jed. Thanks, Greg. So you said we hear you, but we've been hearing that message in some form over the past 3 years, and the fact is the prices are not coming down; they're going up. Debt is also rising; that's going up. So why should Americans believe the president and vice president?
Well, there's some prices that are definitely coming down. So there are airfares. Airfares are. Hold on. Airfares. Hold on. Yes, airfares are lower now than when President Biden took office. So airfares are.
All right, it seems we have some audio issues with the signal. That was Jared Bernstein, chair of the Council of Economic Advisor at the White House briefing.
Next, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said today will not be running for re-election as president of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party in September. The decision puts an end to his 3-year term marred by political scandals. Here's more.
The most obvious first step to show that the Liberal Democratic Party will change is for me to step aside. I will not run for the upcoming presidential election. I will continue to support the new leader who will be elected through the presidential election as a comrade. As the head of the organization, I have no hesitation in taking responsibility for a serious situation, the fundraising scandal caused by a Liberal Democratic Party member.
His exit triggers a contest to replace him as president of the party and, by extension, become the leader of the world's 4th biggest economy. Kishida's public support has been sliding due to revelations about the LDP's ties to the controversial Unification Church and unrecorded political donations made at party events. However, the Prime Minister has also faced public discontent over stagnant wages as Japan's cost of living soars. The new LDP leader will face challenges, including uniting the ruling party, managing inflation, and geopolitical tensions with China and the United States.
Back to the U.S., a U.S. Army sergeant has pleaded guilty to conspiring to sell military secrets to the Chinese regime. The Justice Department says Corbin Schultz was charged with conspiracy to disclose national defense information. He was also charged with exporting defense articles and data without a license and bribery of a public official. The DOJ says Schultz was an intelligence analyst and held top secret clearance. The indictment says he conspired with someone in Hong Kong that he suspected was linked to the Chinese regime. The department says some of the documents he sent included information on U.S. military satellites and Chinese military tactics. Another document was a document on Army lessons learned from the Russia-Ukraine war that would apply in defense of Taiwan. The Justice Department says Schultz was paid about $42,000 for the information. He will be sentenced at the start of next year. A New York judge has refused to step down from the New York business records case against former President Trump.
Trump's legal team said the judge's daughter and her political consultancy work posed a political conflict of interest.
Judge Juan Merchan denied a request by Trump's lawyers that he recuse himself from the case. One of Merchan's daughter's clients was Vice President Kamala Harris, who competed for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination.
A jury found Trump guilty in May on 34 counts of falsifying business records. The charges stemmed from his lawyer Michael Cohen's $130,000 payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Prosecutors argue that the payment was made to avert a scandal before the 2016 presidential election. Merchan is scheduled to sentence Trump on September 18th. An update on the Trump campaign. Over $1 million was raised from Monday's live interview with Elon Musk. Musk said the interview, along with discussions that followed, pulled in a combined 1 billion views.
Results now from Wisconsin and Minnesota's primary elections are in. Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar has won her primary race in Minnesota. She defended her 5th district seat against challenger Don Samuels. a former Minneapolis City Council member.
Republican Tony Weed beat two contenders in Wisconsin's 8th congressional district. He won both a regular and a special primary election held for former Representative Mike Gallagher's vacant seat. Trump-endorsed businessman Eric Hoovde won the GOP nomination in Wisconsin's U.S. Senate race. He will face Senator Tammy Baldwin, who ran unopposed. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has takeaways and reactions to last night's re-election.
Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar beat Democratic challenger Don Samuels in a close race yesterday. Omar was first elected in 2018 and narrowly defeated Samuels in the 2022 primary. Samuels had criticized Omar's condemnation of the Israeli government's handling of the Israel-Hamas war and said he was very disappointed with his loss. Omar has also criticized Hamas for attacking Israel and taking hostages. She told reporters yesterday she runs on the politics of joy and wants to live in a peaceful world. Omar's campaign reported raising about $6.2 million. Samuels about $1.4. Omar will face Republican Dalia al-Alkidi for the 5th District. She's an Iraqi-American journalist and self-described secular Muslim who says Omar is pro-Hamas. Meanwhile, in Minnesota's U.S. Senate race, former NBA player Royce White defeated Navy veteran Joe Fraser in the GOP primary. White will challenge Democratic U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar in November. Klobuchar won her primary by a landslide. Minnesota's Democratic Party chair after Klobuchar's win said the senator is focused on bringing people together to get things done. He stated she's consistently ranked as one of the most bipartisan and effective lawmakers in the Senate. In Wisconsin, Tony Weed won both the special and regular primary GOP nomination for the 8th congressional district. The races had the same slates of candidates competing for former Representative Mike Gallagher's seat. Democratic nominee Dr. Kristen Lyerly ran unopposed. Real estate mogul Eric Hoovde beat two GOP opponents to win the U.S. Senate Republican primary. He'll challenge incumbent Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin, who ran uncontested. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
In Connecticut, Matt Corey won the Republican nomination to take on Senator Chris Murphy again. Corey is an entrepreneur who unsuccessfully ran for the U.S. House and Senate in the past.
On campaign signs, Corey bills himself as the fighter former President Trump needs by his side. Connecticut voters have not elected a Republican to the U.S. Senate since 1982.
Disgraced lawyer Alex Murdaugh could get a new murder trial soon. The South Carolina Supreme Court has agreed to hear the convicted murderer's jury tampering appeal. Last year, a jury found Murdaugh guilty of shooting and killing his wife and youngest son. His legal team wants a new trial based on allegations that the Colton County Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill, made comments implying Murdaugh's guilt to jurors. Hill resigned and is now under state investigation. She was repeatedly denied the allegations. Murdaugh is currently serving 2 life sentences in state prison. He's also serving time for federal and state crimes related to dozens of financial charges. Murdaugh is also appealing his federal sentence.
The U.S. has reached an important milestone used for measuring inflation. The Consumer Price Index slowed below 3% for the first time since March 2021. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest report released today. Prices rose just 2.9% for the 12 months that ended in July. On a monthly basis, prices rose 0.2%, with inflation appearing to be under control. Economists hope the Federal Reserve will reduce borrowing costs to try to get job growth booming again. Texas is suing General Motors over how it handles driver data. The state's Attorney General Ken Paxton says GM collects an array of data on vehicle owners that can include how many times they exceed speed limits or violate other traffic laws. The suit says GM then sold that data to companies who went on to sell it to insurance companies. Insurers can then use it to determine how safe a driver is. Paxton also says GM deceived customers by encouraging them to enroll in programs like OnStar Smart Driver. The Attorney General alleges owners didn't know joining those programs also allowed GM to collect and sell their data. General Motors has not yet responded for comment.
Paramount Global said yesterday it will start laying off 15% of its workforce in the U.S. It will also close its television studio as part of a company-wide restructuring plan. Paramount owns several big networks, including CBS, MTV, and Comedy Central. The company wants to reduce its annual costs by $500 million before merging with Skydance Media. An estimated 2,000 people are expected to lose their jobs. The layoffs are likely to continue through to the end of next month. Paramount Television Studios, which produced shows like The First Wives Club, Spin City, and Freaks and Geeks, is also set to shut down. Paramount's co-CEO George Cheeks said this was due to major shifts in the television and streaming industry.
Now turning to the latest update on a major fire in South Korea, and about 140 Mercedes-Benz electric vehicle burst into flames earlier this month. Mercedes supplier in South Korea disclosed yesterday that the one exploded car causing the fire has a battery made in China. The local fire department said that the surveillance video suggests the fire shows all the signs of being caused by a battery. Mercedes Korea disclosed on Tuesday that the battery was made by a Chinese manufacturer, Far Assist Energy. Experts say battery fires are more difficult to extinguish due to a chain reaction within the battery's cells, also known as the thermal runaway effect. Now the fire is causing nationwide panic about electric cars in South Korea, with citizens calling for transparency on battery supply chains.
Tropical storm Ernesto has continued to gain strength as it moves through the Caribbean. It's just shy now of a Category 1 hurricane.
That's right. The storm is passing north of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and moving northwest at 16 miles per hour.
Ernesto didn't make direct landfall on Puerto Rico, but heavy rain and strong winds are impacting the island. The National Hurricane Center says tropical storm conditions are expected to continue across the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico in the next several hours. The storm should move over the western Atlantic later in the week, gain strength, and it could reach major hurricane strength by Friday morning. Ernesto is expected to pass near or over Bermuda as a Category 2 or 3 hurricane on Saturday. Up next, Avon Products has filed for bankruptcy.
And Mars, the candy maker, has made an offer to buy the company behind Cheez-Its and Pringles. We have more after the break.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. I have met so many survivors. Each of them tells a story that can be so helpful to women out there.
Everything was pretty good. It was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
I think everyone should support the American Heart Association. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. You can be part of that very important work that the American Heart Association is doing to save lives everywhere. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives.
I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children. I am very thankful for the American Heart Association.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives.
Lord Heavenly Father, I pray to you today to guide us tomorrow. Give us strength as we face death. Help us not to be afraid.
Welcome back. Avon Products has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to resolve lawsuits related to claims its talc products cause cancer. The beauty business, known for its door-to-door saleswomen, is just a holding company. It sold its North American business back in 2016 in an effort to shield its non-U.S. business from lawsuits. Avon has faced nearly 400 lawsuits since its first talc claim in 2010. The company has reportedly spent more than $225 million defending itself and making settlement payments. Avon's debt also includes more than $1 billion owed to lenders and bondholders.
A major shakeup in the food industry. Mars, the maker of Snickers and M&Ms, is set to buy Kellanova, the company behind Cheez-Its and Pringles. It's the birth of a snack food superpower. The maker of Snickers and M&Ms has made a $29 billion offer to buy the company behind Cheez-Its and Pringles. Mars' acquisition offer represents a 33% premium over Kellanova's closing stock price from 2 weeks ago. If approved by regulators and shareholders, the deal would close in the first half of 2025. It would also rank among the top largest food and beverage mergers and acquisitions since 1995.
There's still over 2 weeks left till Labor Day, and this was a big summer for travel. Americans flocking to Europe for the Summer Olympic Games, Taylor Swift concerts, and F1 races. I spoke to McLean Robbins, travel advisor and founder of Lily Pond Luxury, to take a look back at this year's hottest travel trends. Take a look. All right, McLean, good to see you. It's mid-August now. We're at the end of the summer. Kids are headed back to school. Some families are trying to squeeze in a last-minute trip before that. So tell us, what are the trends that we've been seeing this year? Where do people want to visit?
I am so excited to be with you today, and thank you so much for having me. Yes, we are seeing unprecedented demand for Europe. People are flocking to Europe to see things like F1 races, the Taylor Swift concert that's coming up in London in just a couple of days, and then, of course, our usuals. Italy's been big, France bigger than ever for the Olympics, and even countries like Portugal are making a huge splash this year. And Asia as well. People are flocking back to Japan, but not just to Japan, to China, to Southeast Asia. This year, it's all about travel abroad.
And I love that you bring up Taylor Swift. That might be one of my favorite topics of conversation. She's a huge name in pop music, but also in tourism this year. People are flying across the globe just to get to her concerts. And her concerts are so big, they actually bring economic boosts to the cities that she's traveling to. So how are we seeing travel patterns change this year because of her?
I think the Swift effect has definitely opened people's minds to what they can do with celebration travel. And we see so many families finding actually better value in going abroad for a Taylor Swift concert. Tickets are a little bit cheaper. They can stay and they can see a destination that they haven't seen before. Now that they've experienced a concert abroad, they may be more willing and able to go abroad for future events as well. Rates are up from travel company Virtuoso about 12% year over year in Paris, and we certainly see rates up overall about 30 to 40% over pre-pandemic levels. But one of the things that's really interesting is that travelers have said, I've seen and done the cities, and we're really interested in exploring what the country as a whole might have to offer. So in addition to Paris, we see people looking to visit Normandy for the D-Day beaches, or to go out into the Loire Valley or Burgundy or the south of France. And we see that in just about every country, where people want to see the smaller cities and the towns as well.
How is that affecting flight and hotel prices to these regions?
Flight prices are actually down, particularly in business class, which is excellent. Although domestically into the Caribbean and Mexico, we're still seeing pretty record high prices. Well, it depends on a city by city basis if you're going to save on hotel rates. I would say that the big thing to do here is to look early and to book when you first can, instead of waiting for a last minute deal. Obviously, if rates go down, you can always cancel and rebook, but booking early and being very intentional about how you plan your travel to get that nice mix of city and country, both for travel balance, but travel funding as well would be very important.
The experience is the most important part, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has, been taken by surprise by hidden airline fees or canceled flights. That's about the worst thing that could happen when you're trying to go on vacation. So what else could travelers be doing to look out and avoid these issues?
Certainly. There are 3 things that I would suggest for travelers looking to avoid issues this summer and often into the fall as well. 1, don't ever plan something huge and very important the day after you arrive in a destination. Try to do it at least on day 2 or 3 so that if you have a canceled flight or if something happens in your destination, you have a day or 2 to recoup. 2, plan for travel insurance and try to make sure that you are looking at every contingency, but read those terms and conditions carefully. And 3, plan as far in advance as possible.
What are some destinations that you think people are sleeping on? What are those underrated places that you wish more people knew about and visited?
I love that question. I think that your destinations that people want to visit are deeply personal. And so I would pivot and say, I think it's really about when you visit those destinations. There's no bad destination, but there is an optimal and a less optimal time to visit. So my favorite way to take advantage of a destination is visiting in what's called shoulder season. So just before or just after the high season, so that you can take advantage of fewer crowds and better rates, but getting to see that destination like a local would and still enjoy great weather.
How could a traveler plan an itinerary to really experience those locations and those events perhaps that really only the locals would know about? How do they find out about these types of opportunities?
Certainly. The first way is to work with a travel advisor that has great on-the-ground contacts and knowledge. I work all over the world, as does my team, and we specialize in helping get to know the individual and proposing things that they may not even know they want. May it be a cooking class or a cultural event or a tour of a destination that's really interesting to them. And the next is to really take advantage of local guides. I know a lot of people have this misconception that guiding is for their parents' generation, but the younger generation too is really utilizing the internet to say these are things that are possible and really making deep connections with locals on the ground who can show you their city that they're passionate about in a whole new way.
All right, McLean Robbins, founder of Lily Pond Luxury, thank you for your time and your insights.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Coming up, a human rights lawyer in China not seen in 7 years. Lawmakers and rights groups are demanding answers from the Chinese regime.
The Olympic Games offered a much-needed break from France's political turmoil. Now, President Emmanuel Macron faces the challenging task of appointing a new prime minister. That and more after the break.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel, actually, an effect. And I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times. And so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then the second time, I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just
just two teaspoons of it and over a few times. And wow, that was a big difference because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
Welcome back to NTD Newsroom. Lawmakers and rights groups are demanding the CCP release a human rights lawyer not seen in 7 years. Gao Zhisheng went missing from his home in Shanxi region in 2017. He had already been imprisoned, put under house arrest, and tortured by the CCP at that time. Gao provided legal aid to people targeted by the Chinese regime for their spiritual and religious beliefs. The U.S. Congressional Executive Commission on China put out a statement on X. It marked the 7th anniversary of his disappearance, demanding his immediate and unconditional release. A commissioner from the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom also called for Gao's freedom. She said he courageously defended rights of religious minorities like House Christians and Falun Gong practitioners in China. Another rights commissioner urged the government to impose sanctions on CCP officials responsible for persecuting human rights lawyers. Nearly 100 rights activists, including Gao's wife, called for his release in front of the Chinese consulate in San Francisco this week. The Olympic Games provided a welcome distraction from political strife in France, but President Emmanuel Macron now faces the difficult task of naming a prime minister while facing a political stalemate in parliament. NTD's international correspondent David Vivez has the story.
The end of the Olympic Games marks the end of the political truce for the French government. President Emmanuel Macron said he would wait until mid-August to name a new prime minister. Former Prime Minister Gabriel Attal sent a letter Tuesday to various group leaders to create a coalition in parliament. But political negotiations have been slow and the president has not responded to the left-wing coalition's proposal for a new prime minister. According to editorialist Yvan Rioufol, there is a good chance a coalition will eventually be formed with the left-wing group in parliament.
We can imagine a scenario in which the left would form an alliance with Macron, as he himself has some liberal views. And this would not be impossible because Macron and the left-wing coalition leader share the same vision of a multicultural, diverse society.
Rioufol says even after the president appoints a prime minister, the situation in parliament would still pose a challenge for the new French government.
With an assembly finally with no clear majority, we could have either a situation of stalemate, of political paralysis for a year, since we would have to wait another year before the next dissolution.
One of the most urgent issues for the French government is to restore the public deficit by preparing a budget plan to be presented in September. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Coming up, millions of dollars worth of jewelry was stolen in a museum heist in eastern Germany nearly 5 years ago.
Now, most of them can be admired again in the museum. We'll take a closer look after the break.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week, still couldn't pay the bills, skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 kids face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for kids facing hunger this summer.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of children facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org. Working together, we can end hunger in America.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-984-7221. That's 1-800-984-7221, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
Turning our attention now to Asia. North Korea will reopen to limited international tourism this winter after years of isolation. That's according to announcements from 2 tour companies on Wednesday. Beijing-based Koryo Tours and Shenyang-based KTG Tours said tour groups would be allowed to visit the mountainous city of Samgyeon, that is the purported birthplace of the late North Korean regime leader Kim Jong-il. The reopening set for December comes nearly 5 years after Pyongyang completely sealed its borders due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Those restrictions have largely continued with the exception of small tour groups from Russia. They were allowed to enter this year and amid North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's deepening partnership with Russian President Vladimir Putin. And U.S. passports are not valid for travel to or within North Korea.
That's right. That is, unless they are specifically validated by the State Department. The department classifies the risk of traveling to North Korea as level 4, do not travel. Nearly 5 years ago, millions of dollars worth of jewelry was stolen in a museum heist in eastern Germany. But visitors can now once again admire nearly all of the precious pieces in person.
Thieves stole pieces that contained more than 4,300 diamonds with an estimated value of over $124 million from the Green Vault Museum in Dresden, Germany. This happened in November 2019. Police say most of the jewels have been recovered.
Today is a wonderful day for us. When we stood here almost 5 years ago, we were all collectively shocked. And I remember how many people were quick to demand consequences in this situation and wanted to find someone to blame. For me, it was important at the time that we got to the bottom of things, that we understood what had happened, and that we then drew the right conclusions.
The jewels are in the same condition in which they were recovered in December 2022. This is because they are part of ongoing legal proceedings and still considered court property.
But there are certain things that perhaps the absolute experts can see. We with the naked eye can actually barely see the damage. And this damage is mainly due to the fact that they were either broken out during the crime, i.e., mechanically damaged, or improperly stored by the perpetrators after the crime.
The heist was a harsh lesson about security at the museum.
It's a bitter experience that we've had here, but at least we should learn from it. Until 5 years ago, we considered it to be one of the safest buildings in Europe and that something like this could never happen. We were shocked that it was actually possible, but we have drawn the necessary conclusions.
The stolen Dresden collection was assembled in the 18th century by Augustus the Strong, later King of Poland. He commissioned ever more brilliant jewelry as part of his rivalry with France's King Louis XIV.
Next, the rare sighting of a South Andean deer on the coast of Chile has sparked hopes among conservationists. The animal is an endangered species. It is one of 2 species of native deer found only in the Patagonian forest of Argentina and Chile. The sighting occurred in May during a scientific expedition conducted by Rewilding Chile in the area that will become the future Cape Froward National Park. The area is located at the southernmost point of the American continent. Spotting the deer has brought hope to conservationists. They say it invited them to continue their work. The young male deer was possibly displaced by another male and was in search of new territories when it was caught by the camera. Originally found in areas in central Chile, the species can now be seen mainly in the southernmost regions of the country. The wildlife director from Rewilding Chile has said less than 1,500 animals remain to this day. And wildlife cameras give us a rare sighting in London. Baby beavers, also known as kits, were spotted taking a leisurely dip into a river. The Ealing Beaver Project said the 2 kits were the first to be born in an area of urban London in 400 years. The kits were born in spring and were seen dipping and diving at an urban wetland in West London. It follows the successful reintroduction of a family of 5 Eurasian beavers in October last year. Another kit was reported to have been born in North London last autumn.
Coming up, former President Donald Trump is holding a campaign event in Asheville, North Carolina later this afternoon. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao is there and will bring us more information in the next hour, so stick with us.
There's cultures that have been lost, but this culture hasn't been. The artist is showing us our sense of who we are, where we came from. You look at his hat. His hat is knitted probably by a man because a man traditionally knitted the hats. That hat tells you the story of who this person is, what his place in the culture is, the animals around him. Everything's all contained in the messages in the hat. And the tool that he's carrying over his shoulder. This is a centuries-old tool that has been able to rework the mountains. Those traditions are invaluable, and if we don't honor those traditions, then we're rootless. The artist is showing us the value of maintaining our culture and respecting our culture.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3. Greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Chris Beers.
The State Department approving a $20 billion arms sale to Israel. Congress has 30 days to block the sale or let it proceed.
The Japanese Prime Minister said today he will not be running for re-election as president of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party, bringing an end to his 3-year term riddled by political scandals.
In Europe, Ukraine saying it's advanced deeper into Russia's Kursk region. Tensions rise as Moscow says peace talks are now being put on pause.
After a Mercedes EV caught fire in a basement parking lot, the car maker today announcing where the battery was made.
Representative Ilhan Omar wins her primary in Minnesota, and former NBA player Royce White dunks on a crowded field for the GOP Senate nomination. We have results and takeaways from last night's elections.
As summer comes to a close, we take a look back at this year's hottest travel trends. NTD speaks with a travel advisor about the best ways to optimize your vacation experience.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Welcome back. Ernesto intensified into the third hurricane of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season as it moved north of Puerto Rico. The storm system is leaving tens of thousands of people without power and water. NTD's Christina Corona gives us the update.
The National Hurricane Center says Ernesto is now a Category 1 hurricane and is expected to become a major hurricane by Friday morning. The storm was located about 175 miles northwest of San Juan, Puerto Rico, with sustained winds that reached 75 miles per hour, classifying it as a Category 1 storm. According to Luma, a service provider, more than 695,000 customers are without power in Puerto Rico. 235,000 customers are without water, and over 400 people are in shelters. President Biden issued an emergency declaration for Puerto Rico on Tuesday night. Puerto Rico Governor Pedro Pierluisi has urged residents and tourists to remain away from the waters.
We are particularly warning tourists and our own population to stay away from the ocean. Ocean conditions, particularly in the north and the eastern part of Puerto Rico, are going to be very dangerous.
The highest rainfall total recorded so far is 9.6 inches in Naguabo, Puerto Rico. Ernesto is expected to continue moving through open waters for the remainder of the week, making its closest approach to Bermuda on Friday and Saturday. It's anticipated to intensify into a major Category 3 storm in the coming days. Christina Corona, NTD News.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency says its disaster fund has run out of money. The agency's administration says for now, FEMA will only provide money for immediate needs. She says she hopes Congress will pass a $9 billion supplemental request to help restore its disaster fund. Congress is in recess through the end of August, and it is unclear when the House and Senate will take up the funding request. But despite the lack of funding, FEMA officials say they have enough resources to respond to impending disasters like Tropical Storm Ernesto. This is the second year in a row FEMA's disaster fund has run out of money before the full force of hurricane season takes effect. Disgraced lawyer Alex Murdaugh could get a new murder trial. The South Carolina Supreme Court has agreed to hear the convicted murderer's jury tampering appeal. Last year, a jury found Murdaugh guilty of shooting and killing his wife and his youngest son. His legal team wants a new trial based on allegations that the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill, made comments implying Murdaugh's guilt to jurors. Hill resigned and is now under state investigation. She has repeatedly denied the allegations. Murdaugh is currently serving 2 life sentences in state prison, and he's also serving time for federal and state crimes related to dozens of financial charges. Murdaugh is also appealing his federal sentence.
Taylor Swift will be in London tomorrow to resume the world's biggest ever concert tour. This is after her Vienna concerts were canceled when a planned terror attack was foiled. Taylor Swift fans are ready for the shows at Wembley Stadium in London. One fan said the events in Vienna made her feel a little bit unsteady, but she felt confident about coming to see Swift in London. Other fans also expressed their confidence in security. British police said there is nothing to indicate that events in Vienna would impact Swift's 5 appearances at Wembley Stadium. Security is set to be tight, and those without a ticket will not be allowed to gather outside. Fans at Wembley will enter through metal detectors. Glass and metal containers, laptops, and umbrellas are all banned. 90,000 people are expected to cheer her on each evening. Swift's return to Britain could be emotional after recent events.
Back to the U.S., a New York judge has refused to step down from the New York business records case against former President Donald Trump.
That's right. Trump's legal team said the judge's daughter and her political consultancy work posed a potential conflict of interest.
Judge Juan Merchan denied a request by Trump's lawyers that he recuse himself from the case. One of Merchan's daughter's clients was Vice President Kamala Harris, who competed for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination.
A jury found Trump guilty in May on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. The charges stemmed from his lawyer Michael Cohen's $130,000 payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Prosecutors argued that the payment was made to avert a scandal before the 2016 presidential election. Merchan is scheduled to sentence Trump on September 15th. In more election news, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has qualified for the ballot in Maine. That's according to a spokesperson for Maine's Secretary of State. This comes after the office announced Monday they would consider a challenge to Kennedy's petition from a Maine voter. But after the hearing was scheduled, the voter withdrew the objection. By appearing on the ballot, Kennedy could complicate the dynamics over the race for Maine's electoral votes. That's because of the sole electoral vote awarded to the winner of Maine's 2nd congressional district. It's a competitive district that Trump won in the 2020 election. And Kennedy has gained ballot access in 19 states, including Maine. In total, Kennedy is eligible to get 236 electoral college votes.
Yeah, Chris, that's right. But the candidate did sustain a setback this week in his effort to appear on the New York state ballot. A New York State Supreme Court judge denied Kennedy's petition over the use of a, quote, sham residential address.
Next, the Education Department yesterday asked the Supreme Court to lift a nationwide block of President Biden's student loan repayment plan. A federal appeals court banned implementation of what is known as the SAVE plan last week. It calls for slashing monthly payments and speeding up the path to loan forgiveness. The High Court rejected another student loan forgiveness program the president proposed last year. In the new case, the appeals court unanimously barred the Education Department from moving forward with the SAVE plan while legal challenges play out. 7 Republican-led states have challenged the plan. The Supreme Court has asked the states to respond to the Education Department's emergency request next week.
Before we get to the headlines, let's take a look at some new economic data. Inflation in July cooled to 2.9% from a year ago. That's slightly lower than previous months. The new data came in lower than expected. Although inflation slowed for the 5th consecutive month, it remained above the Fed's 2% target.
The Fed has kept interest rates at a 20-year high since last year. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said earlier that weakening labor market conditions could warrant a reaction. He hinted at a potential rate and cuts in September. Next, for more on this latest Consumer Price Index report, we're joined by Carol Roth, former investment banker and author of the New York Times bestseller, You Will Own Nothing. Good to have you with us, Carol. The latest CPI report shows the rate at which prices are increasing slowed again last month. Break this report down for us.
Sure. Well, I think that it's a very perspective-driven report. At 2.9% year-over-year inflation, that can be viewed as good if we're comparing it to the last 3 years, say, but not necessarily great if we're comparing it to, say, the last 20 years. Obviously, if you are an individual, it's still compounding and adding to your cost of living, your eggs at the grocery store, your rent. So it's still a challenging environment for the individual. Also, from a perspective standpoint, I know you guys were talking a little bit about the Federal Reserve. The CPI is good in terms of the fact that I think it still keeps them on path towards a September rate cut. But at the same time, if you're looking at their target rate of 2% inflation, we're still about 50% above it. So, on the right track, but not necessarily anything where people are going to go out and celebrate.
Yeah, and I do know people in the low and middle income brackets are indeed feeling the pressure of the economy right now. Next, the Fed said it could be on track to lower rates by September. We're touching on this. Does this latest CPI report indicate we're headed in that direction? I mean, is that really going to happen?
So certainly if you look at the market, investors are betting that it's going to happen. In fact, they have almost 100% certainty that there is going to be a rate cut. And this has been following a whole slew of economic data, which is seeing inflation come down towards their target. The Fed doesn't want to be behind the curve in terms of lowering rates, as it's often accused of doing and being too slow in making decisions. At the same time, we're seeing some cracks in the labor market. So the question that really is on the table for the market right now is, will that be a 50 basis point cut, which is 0.5%, or will it be 25 basis points, which is 0.25%? And I think that's where they're arguing back and forth. Now, that being said, the market isn't always right. They've been pricing in rate cuts month after month and not getting them. But I think that based on all of the data and given the fact that the Fed really doesn't want to be behind the curve, I do think we'll see something at the September meeting, which happens in the middle of September.
Now, yeah, we're talking about the Fed interest rate. Before I got into the news, I had no idea what that meant, frankly. And I think a lot of Americans feel the same way. I mean, it's kind of like this economic term that's up in the sky. A lot of people don't really deal with that on a daily basis. And like we were saying, middle and low income Americans are feeling the pressure from inflation and rising housing costs, regardless of what the Fed fund rate is. When could these people start to feel things easing up a bit?
Well, both based on the Fed that deals with short-term interest rates and based on what's happening in the broader bond market, which sets longer-term rates, we're seeing that come down on both sides, the long side and the short side. And so, the overall tenor, it's not a direct impact from the Fed, but the overall tenor is allowing for some of the rates to come down, things like mortgages. Certainly, if the Fed were to cut rates, things that are on a short-term interest rate basis that float, things like credit card rates could come down. But remember, we're at a pretty high rate in terms of the Fed funds rate, which is the rate where banks or target rate for banks to lend to each other, and everything comes at a premium to them. So even if it comes down 0.25% or 0.5%, that isn't going to change consumers' behavior on a wholesale basis. One thing it will do is for the U.S. government that we know has $35 trillion trillion in debt and deficits running at 2%. For any new debt that needs to be financed or any existing debt that comes due that needs to be refinanced, it will mean a lower rate of financing for them. And that is, less interest costs that we have to either add on from new debt or get from taxpayers. So I think that will be a welcome change, and certainly, hopefully, over time, we'll get back to a more normalized level.
Now we're talking about getting to a more normalized level, a more tolerable economy for, again, lower and middle income Americans. The election is approaching. Both Republican nominee Donald Trump and presumptive Democratic nominee Kamala Harris are expected to unveil their economic plans this week. What can we expect to hear from them given the state of the economy we're talking about?
Well, certainly Kamala Harris needs to own that the economic plans that we've been living under are her economic plans. As the tie-breaking vote in the Senate, she was responsible for putting in place and breaking the tie on everything from the American Rescue Plan to the Inflation Reduction Act. So the policies that have stoked inflation, that have caused these massive deficits, are policies that she's going to have to own, and hopefully somebody will hold her to account. That being said, she's known to flip-flop, even though she voted for more IRS agents to crack down on individuals, including service workers' tips. She's now also taken Donald Trump's proposal of no tax on tips and saying that she's going to affect that. So I think it's going to be very important for the American voters to really part and parcel and understand what is, a political saying and what's a reality. As for Donald Trump, certainly things were better from an economic standpoint pre-COVID under Trump, and I think he will tout probably the extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which provided tax relief for basically most Americans and increased revenue for the government at the same time. So I would imagine him leaning into the types of proposals he had previously, as well as those that will make Americans more prosperous.
And you ended talking about Trump's possible economic policy if he's elected. Elon Musk, who spoke to Trump the other day on X, offered to help Trump cut government spending and ease inflation if Trump wins in November. What kind of steps could he take if that actually does happen?
I mean, I want to sign up, Chris, for this council as well. I think a government efficiency council is much needed, especially given how much government waste and overspending we have. So to have people who are around Trump, whether it's Elon Musk or some of the other business advisors like Vivek Ramaswamy, who have stepped up and said, we need to cut certain departments, we need to call back spending, we need to look into waste and fraud. These are things that should benefit everybody. Have a more lean government that's focused on protecting people's individual rights and not just spending and spending. I think that would be a benefit to everybody and to the financial future, which, at the fact of the matter is we're at 120% of debt to GDP. This is an unsustainable fiscal path. Everyone has acknowledged that. So we need to hear some real solutions. And so to have people who have experience in the private sector making those types of cuts, that would be a welcome addition to the government.
Well, there's nothing wrong for individuals to be a little more thrifty. I would imagine that it's the same for the government. Carol Roth, former investment banker, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Avon Products have filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to resolve lawsuits related to claims its talc products cause cancer. The beauty business, known for its door-to-door saleswomen, is just a holding company. It sold its North American business back in 2016 in an effort to shield its non-U.S. business from lawsuits. Avon has faced nearly 400 lawsuits since its first talc claim in 2010. The company has reportedly spent more than $225 million defending itself and making settlement payments. Avon's debt also includes more than $1 billion owed to lenders and bondholders.
A major shakeup in the food industry. Mars, the maker of Snickers and M&Ms, is set to buy Kellanova, the company behind Cheez-Its and Pringles. It's the birth of a potential snack food superpower. The maker of Snickers and M&Ms has made a $29 billion offer to buy the company behind Cheez-Its and Pringles. Mars's acquisition offer represents a 33% premium over Kellanova's closing stock price from 2 weeks ago. If approved by regulators and shareholders, the deal would close in the first half of 2025. It would also rank among the top largest food and beverage mergers and acquisitions since 1995.
The popular shoemaker Hey Dude has to pay nearly $2 million to customers. They reached a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission. According to an announcement from the FTC last week, 30,000 customers will receive direct payments from the $1.9 million settlement. The FTC said Hey Dude failed to notify customers of shipping delays and didn't offer cancellation or refunds for delayed orders. The company, which was acquired by Crocs Inc. in 2022, is also accused of multiple violations, like issuing gift cards instead of cash refunds for out-of-stock items, which is against the mail order rule, and violating the FTC Act by suppressing negative reviews. The FTC said Hey Dude only posted the highest ratings on its website and suppressed more than 80% of reviews that were lower than 4 stars. According to the FTC, Hey Dude settled the allegations that it repeatedly violated the mail order rule and the FTC Act last year.
The shoe company will now be required to publish all reviews with limited exceptions for inappropriate content. And today on National Financial Awareness Day, financial experts share with us tips on personal finances.
And a travel expert shares some tips with us on booking your next vacation, including how to save more money. That and more after the break.
صعبة كتير رعب وطبعا هلا يعني أنا بحس بالرعب الكبير بدنا بس نعيش بأمان.
Conflict is raging across the world, and millions of children's lives are being devastated by war, hunger, disease, and poverty. We urgently need your help to reach children in crisis. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We need 1,000 new monthly donors this month to help children in crisis around the world and right here at home. You can help us provide food, essentials, and life-saving medical care to children in the most need.
يعني بدنا نعيش زي كل الأطفال بدنا نعيش بحرية وأمان.
In the darkest times, children suffer the most. You can help by calling right now and giving just $10 a month. All we need are 1,000 monthly donors. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Thanks to generous government grants, every dollar you give can have up to 10 times the impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
وعيت على هاي الدنيا القصف والنزوح والخيمة. أتمنى نعاود على بلادنا شايف لك إنه هذا مستحيل.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Show them they're not alone. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
Thank you for staying with us. Former President Trump is speaking about the economy today in the battleground state of North Carolina. It comes before Vice President Kamala Harris is set to lay out her economic agenda tomorrow.
Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. She's at the rally in Asheville, North Carolina. Good afternoon, Iris. What are we expecting to hear about today?
Good afternoon to both of you. So at around 4 p.m. Eastern Time, former President Trump will be giving a speech about the economy right here in the battleground state of North Carolina, which he won in 2020 by just over 1 percentage point. At the top of his agenda here will be to talk about how to lower inflation and end tax on tips, as a sign behind us on the stage are reading. Meanwhile, his speech also come after this morning he voted in the early primaries in his home state of Florida and told reporters this about his upcoming address. Watch.
Inflation with the economy itself and so many other things. The other thing we're going to talk a little bit on is crime. If you look at the migrant crime in New York, it's been out of control. We're in a failing nation and become in many ways a third world nation, and we're not going to let that happen. Thank you.
And the Trump campaign is linking inflation to what it now calls Kamalanomics, and noting in a statement that families are paying now 30% more for baby food and the price of gas is up 50%. Meanwhile, tomorrow on Thursday, Trump will be giving a second press conference in a week, and this time at his Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey. It comes as Kamala Harris's campaign says Harris will sit down for a formal interview by the end of this month. Reporting from Asheville, North Carolina, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Is personal finance management a thing of the past? We might know that one friend who goes through spending a paycheck without thinking long term. For National Financial Awareness Day, and yes, that's a thing, we spoke to financial savvy folks about money.
Personal finance and investing aren't typically taught in schools. That's why for National Financial Awareness Day, NTD spoke with financial experts from groups that help Americans understand money. Valentino Sabuco, executive director of the nonprofit Financial Awareness Foundation, says there are two important spheres of thinking.
One is getting organized. How do you deal with paperwork? What do you own and owe? How do you make and spend your money? And for most people that work for someone else, their employment benefits.
The concept of getting organized helps lay the groundwork for finances, which then builds on to the second major sphere.
What are your goals? What's important to you, both in financial terms and lifestyle terms and community terms? Once that's defined, what are you doing for your financial independence and retirement?
A lot of people spend many hours a week working to earn money, but spend less than 30 minutes a month managing and growing their finances. Vince Shorb with the National Financial Educators Council believes in simplifying the message. He told NTD personal finance isn't that complicated.
There's only a few things they need to focus on, which is the ability to earn money, the ability to control their expenses so they're able to save on a regular basis for now and needs in the future.
It's not just about managing money, but also emotions.
The other area I think is equally important on the expense side is the behavioral side of money. A lot of unneeded expenses going on out there.
For National Financial Awareness Day, it could also be a good time for families and loved ones to rethink spending. One example could be group conversations about needs, values, and plans.
I think it's important also for families to start teaching their kids about money. Remember, money isn't just a singular person. It's a family unit involved. All of our finances are intermingled. It's important for those adults to have conversations with their aging parents and family members. In addition, if you're in a relationship, it's important to talk with your partner.
Another idea is leveraging the power of compound interest, especially if you have a newborn baby. He or she would have all the time ahead of them.
And if you're allowing money to grow and compound when they're just being born or when you know you're pregnant, that's going to provide a lot of benefit and a lot of value to them in the long run.
On the other hand, we also shouldn't go to extremes.
We've seen people that save everything they make, so at some time in the future they have this nice pot of gold, and they don't live a very good life. And by the time they reach that pot of gold, so to speak, they're too old or too unhealthy to enjoy it.
And like almost everything in life, balance is key.
The balance between work, between family, between self, how you spend your time, how you spend your energy. And if you can get a happy balance, it's a great life.
Whether just starting out or looking to refine your approach, experts say taking time today to organize, plan, and communicate about your finances can lead to greater security and fulfillment. David Lamb and Jimmy Ma, NTD News, California.
Ukraine today claims it's advancing deeper into the Kursk region in Russia. That's as the governor of a neighboring Russian region declared a state of emergency. Here's an update on Ukraine's offensive.
Russia's emergency ministry released this video on Wednesday, showing people being evacuated from a town in the Kursk region. Ukraine, meanwhile, published this video, saying it shows the moment its soldiers pulled down a Russian flag. And the incursion continues. Ukraine's army chief gave this update when speaking to President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday.
Since the start of today, troops have advanced around 1 mile in various directions. Since the beginning of this day, we've captured about 100 enemy soldiers.
Meanwhile, the governor of the Russian Belgorod region says the situation continues to be extremely difficult and tense. Belgorod is next to Kursk, where Ukraine launched a surprise incursion last week.
There are daily shellings by the Ukrainian armed forces, destroyed homes, injured and killed peaceful civilians. Therefore, we have decided to declare a regional level state of emergency.
The governor says the state of emergency will help to provide more protection. And President Biden commented on Ukraine's incursion after he landed in New Orleans on Tuesday.
I've spoken with my staff on a regular basis, probably every 4 or 5 hours for the last 6 or 8 days. And it's creating a real dilemma for Putin. And we've been in direct contact, constant contact with the Ukrainians. That's all I'm going to say about it while it's active.
Russia on Wednesday said that chances for peace talks are now much lower after Ukraine's incursion.
Now turning to the latest update on a major fire in South Korea. About 140 Mercedes-Benz electric vehicles burst into flames earlier this month. Mercedes supplier in South Korea disclosed yesterday that the one exploded car causing the fire has a battery made in China. The local fire department said that the surveillance video suggests the fire shows all the signs of being caused by a battery. Mercedes Korea disclosed on Tuesday that the battery was made by a Chinese manufacturer, Far Assist Energy. Experts say that battery fires are more difficult to extinguish due to a chain reaction within the battery cells, also known as the thermal runaway effect. Now the fire is causing nationwide panic about electric cars in South Korea, with citizens calling for transparency on battery supply chains. And Airbnb has been a popular alternative to booking hotels. NTD's David Lamb spoke with a full-time traveler and blogger about booking and budget-friendly pro tips.
Grace Moser says she's been a full-time traveler since 2016 and has stayed in countless Airbnbs. She says when booking stays, no matter which platform, she always goes onto the computer to load up the reviews.
The reason why I do that is because when you go to the reviews, you can Command F and you can search for certain words that people are saying in the reviews themselves. So you want to scroll down a good ways in the reviews so you have enough loaded up, and then I'll search for certain words like Wi-Fi or sound or loud, noise, smell, anything like that, because those are the words people normally use to complain about things.
She also says to go into detail when researching, because some reviews might be from guests that have stayed a few days as opposed to several weeks.
The one thing I found to really work is to reach out to these Airbnb owners who have a more expensive place to stay, and to be very polite about it, very casual, and just be like, hey, I saw your place. My budget for this amount of time is this amount per night or week or a month, however long you're staying. Be very nice about it, very, very polite, and just be like, if this works for you, let me know. If not, I completely understand. You want people to know that like you're very easygoing. You're not going to be like a nuisance or trying to make them feel bad if they can't work with your budget.
Moser says we'd be surprised by the responses and turnout just simply from asking. For more travel or lifestyle tips, Moser and her husband Silas have been running and sharing their blog for nearly a decade now. David Lamb, NTD News.
When we come back, a charity in New Zealand unknowingly distributes candies filled with a potentially lethal dose of meth. How the drug ended up in its food parcels.
And the Japanese Prime Minister said today he will not be running for re-election as president of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party. This ends his 3-year term riddled with political scandals. We'll have more on that after this short break.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over, your entire order ships absolutely free.
We've been spending a lot more time than ever at home these days. So maybe now you've just noticed cold air coming in from a couple windows, or that your patio door isn't closing fully, which means you're losing heat in the winter, losing cooling in the summer, losing money all year long. And that means now is the time for new windows and patio doors from Renewal by Andersen. Most installations are usually done in just one day. Renewal by Andersen windows and doors can help lower your heating bills and air conditioning bills with their most energy efficient glass available. Only their windows are made with Fibrex material, proven to be 2 times stronger than vinyl, and they're backed by a 20-year warranty. And right now, when you buy one window or patio door, get one at 40% off. Plus, there's no money down, no payments for 12 months, and no interest for 12 months. Plus, an additional $200 off your entire purchase.
1-800-968-1443.
Lord Heavenly Father, I pray to you today to guide us tomorrow. Give us strength as we face death. Help us not to be afraid.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade small batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Thank you for staying with us. Turning our attention now to Asia. North Korea will reopen to limited international tourism this winter after years of isolation. That's according to announcements from 2 tour companies on Wednesday. Beijing-based Koryo Tours and Shenyang-based KTG Tours said tour groups would be allowed to visit the mountainous city of Samgyeon. That is the purported birthplace of the late North Korean regime leader Kim Jong-il. The reopening set for December comes nearly 5 years after Pyongyang completely sealed its borders due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Those restrictions have largely continued with the exception of small tour groups from Russia. They were allowed to enter this year amid North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's deepening partnership with Russia. And U.S. passports are not valid for travel to or within North Korea.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris. That is, unless they are specially validated by the State Department. The department classifies the risk of traveling to North Korea as level 4, do not travel.
Just don't go.
And the Taliban celebrated the 3rd anniversary of its return to power today at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan. Members took the opportunity to showcase some of the military equipment that the U.S. and coalition forces left behind after the 2021 withdrawal. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
At Bagram Air Base, the Taliban paraded a convoy of Humvees and tanks while helicopters flew overhead. Uniformed militants marched with light and heavy machine guns, while others flew Taliban flags. The event was the extremist group's most significant display of power since regaining control of the country in August 2021. The U.S. invaded Afghanistan following the al-Qaeda terror attacks of September 11, 2001. In April 2021, President Biden announced a complete withdrawal of U.S. forces. On August 15th of that year, the Taliban took the capital Kabul after the internationally backed President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. 11 days later, Islamic State suicide bombers killed over 170 Afghans and 13 American troops as crowds desperately tried to evacuate at Kabul's airport. On August 30th, 2021, the last remaining U.S. military personnel left Afghanistan, ending America's longest war. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said today he will not be running for re-election as president of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party in September. The decision puts an end to his 3-year term marred by political scandals. Here's more.
The most obvious first step to show that the Liberal Democratic Party will change is for me to step aside. I will not run for the upcoming presidential election. I will continue to support the new leader who will be elected through the presidential election as a comrade. As the head of the organization, I have no hesitation in taking responsibility for a serious situation, the fundraising scandal caused by a Liberal Democratic Party member.
His exit triggers a contest to replace him as president of the party and, by extension, become the leader of the world's 4th biggest economy. Kishida's public support has been sliding due to revelations about the LDP's ties to the controversial Unification Church and unrecorded political donations made at party events. However, the Prime Minister has also faced public discontent over stagnant wages as Japan's cost of living soars. The new LDP leader will face challenges, including uniting the ruling party, managing inflation, and geopolitical tensions with China and the United States.
A charity working with the homeless in Auckland, New Zealand, unknowingly distributed candies filled with a potentially lethal dose of methamphetamine. A member of the public donated the sweets.
We note that disguising substances as something else to smuggle it into another area is common internationally. So we are not sure at this stage whether that is just contained within the city mission or whether people outside of this have these lollies as well.
Today, Auckland City Mission said staff are contacting up to 400 people to track down the packages. Instead of tainted candy, the wrappers could contain solid blocks of methamphetamine. 3 people were treated at a hospital after consuming them, but were later released. The New Zealand Drug Foundation said the amount of meth in each candy was up to 300 times the lethal amount. A spokesperson said the sweets had a street value of $600 per piece. He said the donation was likely accidental rather than a deliberate poisoning. A U.S. Army sergeant has pleaded guilty to conspiring to sell military secrets to the Chinese regime. The Justice Department says Corbin Schultz was charged with conspiracy to disclose national defense information. He was also charged with exporting defense articles and data without a license and bribery of a public official. The DOJ says Schultz was an intelligence analyst and held top secret clearance. The indictment says he conspired with someone in Hong Kong that he suspected was linked to the Chinese regime. The department says some of the documents he sent included information on U.S. military satellites and Chinese military tactics. Another was a document on Army lessons learned from the Russian-Ukraine war that would apply in defense of Taiwan. The Justice Department says Schultz was paid about $42,000 for the information. He'll be sentenced at the start of next year.
And engineers from Britain and the United States have reached a mutual recognition agreement of industry qualifications and licenses. This is to make it easier for professionals to work on either side of the Atlantic. The deal simplifies processes for engineers to get certifications, have their qualifications recognized, or move between the two countries. It also reduces restrictions on cross-border services provision. Participation will be determined by individual U.S. states, and 26 of them have already confirmed their intent to sign up. That is what Britain said in a joint release with the Engineering Council. Britain is seeking to build stronger economic ties with the United States after it left the European Union, though the Biden administration has frozen all free trade talks at a federal level. Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina called for action yesterday against those involved in last month's violent protests. Those are her first comments since the protests forced her to flee to India. Around 300 people have died in the demonstrations. They began as protests against employment quotas, then later morphed into a movement to overthrow Hasina. Her statement was issued on X through her son. It came hours after a court ordered a probe into her role over the death of a grocery store owner during the protests. Hasina said that many people died in the name of revolution in July, and said she demanded those involved be properly investigated, identified, and punished accordingly. Coming up, a new discovery about Stonehenge has left researchers stunned. It has been revealed that the altar stone, which lies at the center of it, traveled a long distance to become part of the monument.
Millions of euros worth of jewelry was stolen in a museum heist in eastern Germany nearly 5 years ago. Now, most of them can be admired again in the museum. That and more after the break.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel actually an effect, and I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times, and so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then the second time I tried it really like on an empty stomach, and just 2 teaspoons of it, and over a few times. And wow, that was a big difference, because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours, and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. I have met so many survivors. Each of them tells a story that can be so helpful to women out there.
Everything was pretty good. It was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
I think everyone should support the American Heart Association. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. You can be part of that very important work that the American Heart Association is doing to save lives everywhere. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives.
I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children. I am very thankful for the American Heart Association.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives.
Double Arch, a popular geologic feature in Utah's Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, has collapsed. The National Park Service says the frequently visited area in Rock Creek Bay collapsed last Thursday. No injuries were reported. The arch, also referred to as the toilet bowl, crescent pool, and hole in the roof, was formed 190 million years ago. Wind and rain over the years have caused erosion. The National Park Service suspects changing water levels and erosion from wave action contributed to its ultimate demise.
Nearly 5 years ago, millions of dollars worth of jewelry was stolen in a museum heist in eastern Germany. But visitors can now once again admire nearly all of the precious pieces in person. Take a look.
Thieves stole pieces that contained more than 4,300 diamonds with an estimated value of over $124 million from the Green Vault Museum in Dresden, Germany. This happened in November 2019. Police say most of the jewels have been recovered.
Today is a wonderful day for us. When we stood here almost 5 years ago, we were all collectively shocked. And I remember how many people were quick to demand consequences in this situation and wanted to find someone to blame. For me, it was important at the time that we got to the bottom of things, that we understood what had happened, and that we then drew the right conclusions.
The jewels are in the same condition in which they were recovered in December 2022. This is because they are part of ongoing legal proceedings and still considered court property.
But there are certain things that perhaps the absolute experts can see. We with the naked eye can actually barely see the damage. And this damage is mainly due to the fact that they were either broken out during the crime, i.e. mechanically damaged, or improperly stored by the perpetrators after the crime.
The heist was a harsh lesson about security at the museum.
It's a bitter experience that we've had here, but at least we should learn from it. Until 5 years ago, we considered it to be one of the safest buildings in Europe and that something like this could never happen. We were shocked that it was actually possible, but we have drawn the necessary conclusions.
The stolen Dresden collection was assembled in the 18th century by Augustus the Strong, later King of Poland. He commissioned ever more brilliant jewelry as part of his rivalry with France's King Louis XIV.
Next, at the center of Stonehenge lies a mysterious hefty sandstone slab called the altar stone. A new geological analysis has revealed that it took a remarkable journey to become part of one of humankind's ancient wonders.
A new discovery concerning Britain's famous Stonehenge monument has stunned researchers. Its altar stone travelled roughly 435 to 465 miles in ancient times, from Scotland all the way to England's Salisbury Plain. New research, published in the journal Nature, was carried out by scientists at Aberystwyth University, UCL, Curtin University, and the University of Adelaide.
However you brought it, whether you brought it down by boat or whether you brought it over land, but it must have taken a huge effort to do that.
Nick Pearce is a geologist and co-author of the study.
And it sits right at the centre of the Stonehenge monument. It's the bit that you stand on to watch the sunrise between the other stones over there. So it's right at the middle. So it must have been placed there as an important stone.
To find out the age of the stone, researchers studied its geochemical fingerprint.
It's a microanalysis technique. You fire a very focused laser beam on the minerals in the rock, and it vaporizes them. You analyze the vapor, and you analyze the uranium concentrations and the lead concentrations.
They found that the minerals of the altar stone are a perfect match for bedrock found in northeastern Scotland.
And you analyze 50 or 60 minerals, and you get this fingerprint of the different ages of those minerals in the rock, and that's the characteristic that tells us this is Orcadian based. It's that age, that suite of ages from those individual minerals in the grains in the altar stone.
The precise location where the altar stone was sourced remains unknown. But researchers say the challenge of taking such a massive cargo such a long distance underscores its importance to Stonehenge's builders. The monument was built in multiple stages over 500 years or so, starting about 3000 BC. It remains a site of fascination and mystery over its exact purpose, drawing tourists from around the world.
A vintage diesel locomotive with carriages from the 1930s and 1950s is taking passengers across central Italy and back through time. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on a journey that winds through historic towns.
The Italian Trans-Siberian rail line slips into gorges, sneaks into 58 tunnels, and traverses across long bridges. Also known as the Park Railway, it's one of the most panoramic rail journeys in Italy. Passenger Caterina Quaranta sat on one of the train's wooden seats. She said the journey was a nostalgic experience.
This train reminds me of the years of my youth. I like vintage things because today everything is too fast. It reminds me of my greener years.
Italy is one of the most popular tourism destinations in the world. According to Statista, more than 57 million people visited the country in 2023. Travel app Unexpected Italy estimates that 70% of tourists concentrate on merely 1% of the country. The train trip offers slow, affordable, yet niche travel.
It is an answer to mass tourism, but also a new form of tourism. It is sustainable tourism, slow and cultured tourism, to discover the true Italian provinces. It is a way of traveling that takes the tourist away from the large centers of mass tourism and to discover places that only the extensive rail network can do.
It's the first of some 600 miles of track to reopen under a project by a branch of the state-run National Rail Company. After climbing around 3,000 feet, the Trans-Siberian's first stop is Palena. The medieval hilltop town is known for its breathtaking views over a national park.
Everyone should do it because it is an experience, a rewarding experience, something positive that is well organized and that captures the essence of the territory, the atmosphere of the territory. It was beautiful. I loved it. And just imagine I had an operation on both knees and I have difficulty walking and climbing.
Traditional folk music accompanies people getting off the train cars. Local delicacies such as lamb skewers and soft pancakes and products by local artisans await them at the station. Inspired by train travel in Switzerland, the project now carries 45,000 tourists a year across its 13 lines. Authorities expect to open 2 new ones by 2026, both in the southern region of Sicily. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
That seems like a lovely historical experience. Now onto a story quite literally out of this world. A flight engineer on the International Space Station shared a captivating time-lapse this week. It shows auroras glowing red and green as the International Space Station orbits the Earth. The auroras were paired with the moon setting in the horizon. The stunning moment was followed by a beautiful sunrise that illuminated the Soyuz spacecraft that's docked at the International Space Station.
When we come back, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's economic policies could become America's policies if he wins, of course. What are his policies, though? We'll have more on that.
Lord Heavenly Father, I pray to you today to guide us tomorrow. Give us strength as we face death. Help us not to be afraid.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sebastian, and it is a beautiful day today. We have so much to be grateful for, so just remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. I just love inspiring people to be the best they can be, and the reason I'm able to inspire so many people is because people like you who inspire me with your support of Shriners Hospitals for Children. Since I was little, I've broken 100 bones, and I've had 19 surgeries. Shriners Hospitals for Children was with me every step of the way. But more than that, they've given me the confidence to know I can do whatever I set my mind to. Like right now, I've set my mind to sharing my smile with you. Did you get it?
Because of people like you, I can play the violin.
I can play piano.
I can understand.
The help I get is only possible because of caring people like you who pick up the phone and call the number on your screen to make your monthly gift.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Kids like me.
And me.
And me.
And me.
So what are you waiting for? You can inspire kids like me by visiting loveshiners.org. After all, you can't help everyone, but you can help someone. So let's go!
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving. Join me and bring a smile to the world with your monthly gift today.
Please call now. If operators are busy, please call again or go to loveshriners.org right away.
Join me and bring a smile to the world.
It's a painting that is peaceful. There's a lot of beauty in it. And you forget about whatever you might be worried about.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Chris Beers.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's economic policies could become America's policies if he and Vice President Harris win. But what exactly are his policies?
And the Japanese Prime Minister said today he will not run for re-election as president. This ends a 3-year term marred by political scandals.
Thailand's constitutional court has dismissed the Prime Minister for ethics concerns, saying he had violated the constitution. More on that in just a moment.
And still to come, it's been nearly 5 years since thieves stole precious jewelry worth millions of dollars from a museum in Germany. Now most of the items are back on display.
Just how hard could it be to find electric vehicle battery fire information? It might be harder than you think.
Today on National Finance Awareness Day, financial experts share with us tips on personal finances.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida today said he will not be running for re-election as president of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party in September.
This marks the end of a 3-year term marred by political scandals.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said on Wednesday he will step down in September, ending a 3-year term marred by political scandals.
The most obvious first step to show that the Liberal Democratic Party will change is for me to step aside. I will not run for the upcoming presidential election. I will continue to support the new leader who will be elected through the presidential election as a comrade. As the head of the organization, I have no hesitation in taking responsibility for a serious situation, the fundraising scandal caused by a Liberal Democratic Party member.
His exit triggers a contest to replace him as president of the party, and by extension, become the leader of the world's 4th biggest economy. Kishida's public support has been sliding due to revelations about the LDP's ties to the controversial Unification Church and unrecorded political donations made at party events. However, the Prime Minister has also faced public discontent over stagnant wages as Japan's cost of living soars. The new LDP leader will face challenges, including uniting the ruling party, managing inflation, and geopolitical tensions with China and the United States. Kishida is Japan's 8th longest-serving post-war leader and oversaw massive stimulus spending during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, he's stuck with the hawkish security policies of his predecessor Shinzo Abe, who was assassinated in 2022. Abe had unveiled Japan's biggest military build-up since World War II, with a commitment to double defense spending aimed at deterring neighboring China from pursuing its territorial ambitions in East Asia through military force.
Thailand's prime minister has been dismissed from office for ethics violations. Today, he said he performed his duties to the best of his ability, but accepts the judiciary's decision.
I respect the decision of the Constitutional Court, but I want to affirm that throughout my 1 year or almost a year tenure as Prime Minister, I have tried to do everything correctly. I am genuinely committed to my work, uphold my work with honesty and integrity, listen to the opinions of all parties, and affirm that I have not been a point of contention for everyone.
Thailand's Constitutional Court dismissed the prime minister for appointing a former lawyer who had served jail time to his cabinet. The court ruled he violated the Constitution by appointing a minister who failed to meet ethical standards. His removal comes after less than a year in office. The real estate tycoon is also the fourth Thai prime minister in 16 years to be removed by the same court. Parliament will have to convene to choose a replacement. Next, China is looking to build a super embassy in London. The country just resubmitted its plans to the new British Labour government. The move is also seen as a test of how the new administration views China-UK relations. According to the plan, Beijing hopes to have its embassy built on the former Royal Mint court site, close to the Tower of London. The total area is about 10 times the size of the current Chinese embassy in London. China's proposal was first rejected by the UK 2 years ago, but 2 weeks after the new government took power in July, Beijing decided to propose it again. Many UK lawmakers and residents have strongly opposed this plan, citing security concerns. The proposal could be seen as a test for the UK's new government on its relations with China. Former Conservative leader Ian Duncan-Smith says the Labour Party may not be as tough on China as the Conservatives are. He told Voice of America the Labour government has become ambivalent about China, saying he didn't think the party was paying enough attention to the China threat.
Engineers from Britain and the United States have reached a mutual recognition agreement of industry qualifications and licenses. This is to make it easier for professionals to work on either side of the Atlantic. The deal simplifies processes for engineers to get certifications, have their qualifications recognized, or move between the two countries. It also reduces restrictions on cross-border services provision. Participation will be determined by individual U.S. states, and 26 of them have already confirmed their intent to sign up. That is what Britain said in a joint release with the Engineering Council. Britain is seeking to build stronger economic ties with the United States after it left the European Union, though the Biden administration has frozen all free trade talks at a federal level.
Nearly 5 years ago, millions of dollars worth of jewelry was stolen in a museum heist in eastern Germany. But now visitors can once again admire nearly all of the precious pieces in person. Take a look.
Thieves stole pieces that contained more than 4,300 diamonds with an estimated value of over $124 million from the Green Vault Museum in Dresden, Germany. This happened in November 2019. Police say most of the jewels have been recovered.
Today is a wonderful day for us. When we stood here almost 5 years ago, we were all collectively shocked. And I remember how many people were quick to demand consequences in this situation and wanted to find someone to blame. For me, it was important at the time that we got to the bottom of things, that we understood what had happened, and that we then drew the right conclusions.
The jewels are in the same condition in which they were recovered in December 2022. This is because they are part of ongoing legal proceedings and still considered court property.
But there are certain things that perhaps the absolute experts can see. We with the naked eye can actually barely see the damage. And this damage is mainly due to the fact that they were either broken out during the crime, i.e. mechanically damaged, or improperly stored by the perpetrators after the crime.
The heist was a harsh lesson about security at the museum.
It's a bitter experience that we've had here, but at least we should learn from it. Until 5 years ago, we considered it to be one of the safest buildings in Europe and that something like this could never happen. We were shocked that it was actually possible, but we have drawn the necessary conclusions.
The stolen Dresden collection was assembled in the 18th century by Augustus the Strong, later King of Poland. He commissioned ever more brilliant jewelry as part of his rivalry with France's King Louis XIV.
Next, we have former President Donald Trump speaking at a campaign event in Asheville, North Carolina. Let's tune into that now.
And by the way, we have some very good polls coming out today, I just heard. Despite all of the fake publicity about this radical left person from San Francisco. How's San Francisco doing? Not like North Carolina. No, we have some very good polls coming out, so that's good. You know, considering the fact that what they do, what the fake news is able to do, and yet we're leading, and let them have their convention, and who knows how that's going to turn out. Joe Biden is a very angry man. You know that, right? Because they took it away from him. They usurped it. They took it away from him. Terrible, terrible. And I'm not sure that they picked the right guy in him, but he got 14 million votes. He got 14 million votes. He got no votes. And you look at what happens. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. They are a threat to democracy, right, as they say. They are a threat to democracy. But thanks as well to members of Congress, Chuck Edwards and Virginia Fox, warriors. Thank you, wherever you may be. Good. Thank you. Thanks, Chuck. Thank you, Virginia. State Auditor candidate Dave Bollock. He said, I'm only in politics for you, sir. Where is Dave? Anybody that would save... Dave, if you say that, and do you mean that? If you mean that, I'm for you all the way. He has my endorsement. Thank you, Dave. A man who's doing an incredible job, so good when we won this state, and we won it easily. I said, Michael Watley, you're going to head the RNC with Laura. And they're doing an incredible job. And also your North Carolina GOP chairman, Jason Simmons. Jason, thank you. We're doing okay? We're doing good, Jason? Okay, we're way up here. We got to make sure everyone gets out and votes, but we're way up, so I want to thank you. We've had tremendous experience here. We won every time we were in. A special place. Well, my son, you know, he and his wonderful wife, you know who I'm talking about? Lara. But Eric and Lara, they named their beautiful daughter Carolina. Okay? I said, which one are you talking about? Well, you know, today I'm going to say it's North Carolina, right? No, she was born here, raised here, and I'm sure it's a big reason we've done so well here. She's great. She's really terrific, and he is a great young man. I mean, you know, I'm a little prejudiced perhaps because it's my son, a little bit, but they're a great couple, and thank you very much. We appreciate it. With the help of everyone in this room, 83 days from now, can you imagine 83 days? We're almost there. We got to get it. We're going to defeat super liberal, more liberal than Bernie Sanders. Did you hear that? The most liberal person in the Senate. Can you believe that? We're going to defeat Kamala Harris. We're going to win back the White House in a historic landslide, and we're going to take back our country. We're going to take it back. And I think it's important to say, and I never get corrected. I know it's fact because, you know, if I'm slightly off, they do stories, headlines. He didn't tell quite the truth. Well, we are leading the biggest political movement in the history of our country, bigger than any movement ever before. There's never been a movement like this. It's called Make America Great Again, MAGA. Make America Great Again. I say to the Democrats when they come out, well, you know, we've got to try and stop MAGA. MAGA is Make America Great Again. What do you want to stop it for? That's what we're doing. They put in a candidate and we beat him badly. How did he do in the debate? Then they put in another candidate. This is like you have two fighters, and one guy's losing. They say, come on out, let's put in another one. So then they put in another candidate, and we're doing very well, considering the fact that she has the greatest press. She went from being a totally disrespected person 6 weeks ago. Nobody thought she had a chance. Nobody, and I don't think she can possibly win. If she does, our country is finished. You want to know the truth. But she was totally disrespected. The most unpopular vice president in the history of our country. And then they decided to get politically correct. We have to put her in. They put her in, and now they're putting her on the covers of Time magazine with an artist sketch. They don't use a picture. They don't use a picture. They use an artist sketch. I want to use that artist. I want to find that artist. I like him very much. But we're going to beat her also, and they may then get a third candidate. Who knows? This is a little bit different than we're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to have a candidate. You know, we spent probably $100 million on beating him. Then we had a very good debate, and we beat him. And they said, well, instead of letting it go, who knows what happens, right? It's the world of politics. They say, we want him out. Joe, you're getting out now, Joe. Well, I don't want to get out. I have 14. You're getting out now, Joe. We can do it the nice way, or we can do it the hard way. And he's getting out. He's getting out. In fact, they're not even giving him a good spot to speak. You know, when he's speaking on Monday, Monday's not that's the worst day. But that's what they do, and it's their own form of, it's just another, I guess relatively, it's a minor form of cheating by comparison to what they really do, right? Everything Kamala Harris touches turns bad. It all turns bad. San Francisco was a great city. Now it's unlivable. California was a great state. Now it's unlivable. She breaks everything just like she broke the border, broke our economy. But soon we are going to fix every single problem Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have created, and we are going to save our country. We are going to save America. We're going to save America. Now, this is a little bit different day because this isn't around. This is we're talking about a thing called the economy. They wanted to do a speech on the economy. A lot of people are very devastated by what's happened with inflation and all of the other things. So we're doing this as a intellectual speech. You're all intellectuals today. Today we're doing it, and we're doing it right now, and it's very important. They say it's the most important subject. I think crime is right there. I think the border is right there, personally. We have a lot of important subjects because our country has become a third world nation. We literally are a third world nation. We're a banana republic in so many ways, and we're not going to let that happen because we're starting a free fall. But from today and from the day I take the oath of office, we will rapidly drive prices down and make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again. Under Kamala Harris and crooked Joe Biden, the American dream is dead. You don't hear about the American dream anymore. It's dead. Her radical liberal policies have caused horrific inflation, decimated the middle class, and gutted the finances of millions and millions of American families. Real incomes are down by over $2,000 a year per family. I mean, that's a lot of money. They're down by that, and it's actually much more if you figure it a certain way. If you add some other categories in, it's much more than that. But down by 2,000 since she took office, and it was just announced that real earnings were down once again at a record rate. The Harris price hikes have cost the typical household $28,000. Congratulations. Hope everyone's happy. Credit card debt has exploded, and it's exploded to the highest it's ever been, and the cost of a typical monthly mortgage has tripled, and probably more than that if you think about it. We were at about 2.4%, and now you're up to 10% and even 11%, but you're really not there because you can't get the money even if you want to pay it. In July alone, 350,000 people were added to the unemployment rolls. Kamala Harris wants to talk about her fantasies, and they are everything she says. If I say something, she said, that's what she's going to do, too. I say, what are you doing? But she wants to talk for the future about these fantasies, but really what she needs to explain is the present suffering that she's caused along with Joe Biden. And by the way, they're a team. You know, she's trying to throw him overboard. She doesn't want to know who he is anymore. She doesn't want to talk about him anymore. She says, let's not bring this guy in. Let's not bring him in. No, they were a team. He appointed her as border czar, and she did the worst job in the history of borders, I will tell you. Does anyone here feel richer under Kamala Harris than Crooked Joe, than you were during the Trump administration? Is anything less expensive under Kamala Harris and Crooked Joe? I mean, we had inflation that I don't believe we've ever had inflation like that. You can go back a long way. Are you better off now with Harris and Biden than you were with a person named President Donald J. Trump? Do you know him? He's a nice gentleman. Nice gentleman. With 4 more years of Harris, your finances will never recover. They're never going to recover. Our country will never recover, frankly, more importantly. It will be unrecoverable. Vote Trump and your incomes will soar, your savings will grow, young people will be able to afford a home, and we will bring back the American dream bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Look at this. We have a lot of front row Joes here. Wow. Hello. What a great group of patriots they are. I don't know. They've gone to, I think, 219 or 220. And this isn't rally, but this is a different kind of a thing today.
All right, that was former President Trump at a campaign event in Asheville, North Carolina. It's his first event in Asheville, North Carolina since 2016 when protesters clashed there famously. He's announcing his economic policy, beginning by saying that he's going to drive down prices and make America affordable again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris. And former President Trump, as we just said, is now speaking at an event about the economy in North Carolina today. One of his campaign promises is to make America the most dominant energy producer in the world. Vice President Harris hasn't released an energy platform yet, but she said she won't ban fracking, a full 180 from her previous statements. In conflict with Russia and the Middle East, and with electricity costs still one of the main drivers of inflation in America, how important is America's energy policy? Joining us to discuss live now is David Blackman, energy policy analyst and consultant, and a 40-year veteran of the oil and gas industry. Good to see you. Trump is speaking right now in North Carolina about his economic policies, and Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to announce her economic policy on Friday. But as we know, the economy is very much related to our country's energy policies. Explain for us how energy policy impacts the economy.
Oh, well, it's vitally important. I mean, everything you buy in the grocery store or at a clothing store or any other store in America is transported in vehicles, either trucks or trains or ships, powered by petroleum-based fuels, and that impacts the cost of every good and service you buy. And so it's vitally important to get the policy right in order to ensure that the country is as strong as possible where energy is concerned, and that you have plenty of affordable energy that ensures inflation is kept under control.
David, politics aside, what's the most important energy policies that the country needs to implement over the next 4 to 8 years to truly benefit the country and American people?
Yeah, I think we should start actually with Vice President Harris's decision to go back on her previous promise to ban hydraulic fracturing that she made during the 2020 campaign. I hope she means that. Certainly, she would have little hope of winning Pennsylvania if she runs on a platform banning hydraulic fracturing. That would be an enormous hit to the economy and to the energy industry. We've had this spending, this really ruinous kind of deficit spending related to the Inflation Reduction Act, which of course has a name that's completely wrong, frankly. And, billions and billions of dollars going into projects and companies, and many of which are already bankrupt. Encouraging the auto industry, automakers to engage in billions of dollars in investments in electric vehicles that people don't want to buy. We have to take a step back, I think, from those kinds of policies that only have the impact of driving up the national debt and the annual deficits. And, the interest payments alone on the federal debt make things less affordable in America by creating inflation. So, one of the first things I think regardless of who wins, they need to bring in people who will take a step back and reevaluate the direction of that sort of policy and spending from the federal government.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned about taking a step back to reevaluate, but stepping away from the inflation and economy for a second, there's also a lot of global tension and conflict right now. So how might this type of conflict force America to shift its energy policy? And is there something that we need to be doing to preempt that?
Boy, the thing is, and what's so interesting is that we don't import that much oil, just a few million barrels a day from the Middle East, which, has this conflict happening that unfortunately looks like it may expand soon. So we're not really all that vulnerable to that conflict anymore in the United States. But the best thing I think we could do would be to encourage the building of new refining capacity capable of refining the light, sweet crude oil that's being produced from the major shale plays in the Permian Basin, the Bakken Shale up in North Dakota, et cetera. So that, right now, so much of that oil has to be shipped overseas in order to find a refining home because we don't have the capacity. Our capacity was built to refine heavy crudes from other parts of the world. So I think policy that would take the chains off of building new refining capacity would be a really big step.
And just to close things out, there are a lot of ways to generate energy. We heard from Elon Musk pitching the importance and potential of solar power to Trump this week. I know you're an oil and gas guy, but do you support more investment in solar or other renewable energies?
To the extent it makes sense, solar does, I think, have a real role to play as part of an integrated power grid, as long as it's managed properly. The trouble we have with solar and wind both right now is we don't have the battery technology to really properly back it up. But Texas, where I live, is the biggest state in both wind and solar, so we have a lot of it here. And I think it does have a role to play, and frankly, I kind of like solar. I don't really have any problem with some people in the oil industry have a big problem with solar, and I really don't. I think it is so versatile, and there's so many different ways you can deploy solar that it makes a lot of sense.
All right. Well, David Blackman, energy policy analyst and consultant, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Next, we're coming back to former President Donald Trump speaking about his economic policy, his announcement that we've all heard so much about in Asheville, North Carolina. Let's turn back into that.
Time was even lower than that. The African American poverty rate was down 7%. The Hispanic American poverty rate was down 8%. The biggest drops, the greatest drops that you've ever seen in this country. They've never had it so well. Nobody has. Every group, men, women, Hispanics, Asians, blacks, everybody was down at a level that nobody's ever seen. We had some of the greatest periods of economic growth and health that any country has ever seen. I think probably more than any country has ever seen. In 4 short years under President Trump, we passed the largest tax cuts in history, the largest regulation cuts in history. We unleashed American energy and real income surged by more than $4,200 in just a short number of months. I mean, it was nobody, you never had it so good. Now you're not doing so well, I hate to say. We had the strongest economy in history. There's never been a country that had an economy like us. I gave Harris and Biden an economic miracle, and they quickly turned it into an economic nightmare with a nation-wrecking agenda ripped straight out of Kamala's San Francisco liberal playbook. What they've done to poor San Francisco. Well, we're gonna try and bring that back too. Harris and Biden waged war on American energy, threw open our borders, flooded the country with low-wage migrant workers, passed the Green New scam, racked up almost $10 trillion in debt, and buried our workers in job-killing regulations, costing $10,000 per family. That's a lot of money. You don't have to imagine what a Harris presidency would look like. You're living through the misery right now, except it will get worse, and you're paying the price, a price like nobody's ever paid, and we're disrespected all over the world as a country. We were respected before Putin respected us, President Xi of China respected us, Kim Jong-un of North Korea respected us. We were respected by everybody in the world. Today we're being laughed at. Today we're being laughed at all over the world. You're paying the price for Kamala's liberal extremism at the gas pump, at the grocery counter, and on your mortgage bill, and on everything else. How about your car insurance? How's that doing? Not too good, right? I saw today it's up like 82%. We're not going to let this incompetent socialist lunatic keep breaking our economy for 4 more years. It'll destroy our country. On Election Day, we're going to tell her that we've had enough, that we can't take it anymore, Kamala. You're doing a horrible job. You were a terrible attorney general. You were a terrible district attorney. You're the worst vice president in history. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Go. Get out of here. Right? Get out. Boom. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was not a pleasant day. I'll tell you, front row Joes were there. Front row Joes were there. They've seen it all, haven't you, huh? You've seen it. That was a horrible day. That was a terrible day. She's flip-flopping on every single thing she's ever espoused or believed in, the border, healthcare, crime. But she truly is a radical. She's flip-flopping on everything to get elected. After she gets elected, it all goes right back to where it was. She refuses to do any interviews or press conferences. Almost 30 days now. She hasn't done an interview. You know why she hasn't done an interview? Because she's not smart. She's not intelligent. And we've gone through enough of that with this guy, Crooked Joe. He didn't do interviews either. They kept him in his basement, and essentially they're keeping her in the basement the same way they kept her. They don't want to expose her to, like, a question like, what did you have for dinner tonight? Remember, Joe? What kind of ice cream is your favorite? Vanilla. Oh, I like vanilla. Oh. That was George Flopadopoulos. He asked him that. What's your favorite ice cream? With me, they asked me a little bit different question. That's all right. Did everybody the other night see Elon and me? Right? That's great. That was one of the most successful shows ever done. I mean, that was a lot of people like him. I think they like me too, come to think of it. But he's great, and he gave us his full endorsement. And he's a great guy. But he basically, he's a guy doesn't need this stuff. What he wants to do is see our country be great again, and he understands. And it's very hard for him to endorse the opposing party. It's not easy. It's very hard. But he really cares about our country, and he knows the opposing party has really destroyed our country and will destroy our country and permanently destroy our country, and he can't watch that. But we had a great chat for 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours being grilled by Elon, and we had a good time, actually. We're talking about something we love, our country. Much easier when you love something, right? She doesn't want anybody to know what she's really for. And that way she can change it, you know. I mean, she'll tell you what she wants and change it the way she wants it. And ultimately, it'll be the way she wants it. I mean, the clown that she picked as a vice president, this guy's a clown. He was so bad. You know, when Minneapolis was burning down, he didn't want to call in the National Guard. I got him on the phone. You got to get the National Guard. Get it, get it, get it. I'm telling you, if I didn't force it upon him, you might not have the city. Remember CNN standing up? This is a season of love. This is a very peaceful protest. And the whole city is burning down behind him. You ever see anything? As far as the eye could see, the whole thing looked like World War II. Speaking of World War III, I'll keep you out of World War III. He's going to put you in World War III. We're very close. You're very close to being in a war, a big war, a world war. You're very close. We've never been this close. And we have incompetent people in the White House, grossly incompetent people. There was no reason for Russia and Ukraine to go at it. There was no reason for Israel to be attacked on October 7th. Would have never happened. But a politician will always go back to where they started, and on November 6th, she will be a San Francisco liberal, again, destroying everything in sight. I wonder what she does after this. Our country will never recover, especially when added to the destruction they've already caused over the last almost 4 years. Think of our country. Think of the border. Think of what happened. We had the best border. You know my all-time favorite graph, right? That is my all-time favorite graph, not only because it shows the best border, but for another reason. I tell you what, I'm glad I looked around to look at it. Go, wah, pew. That's my favorite of all time. Even if it was... Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Even if it were bad numbers, negative numbers, I still think it would be my favorite of all time. If Harris wins this election, the result will be a Kamala economic crash, a 1929-style depression. 1929. When I win the election, we will immediately begin a brand new Trump economic boom. It'll be a boom. We're going to turn this country around so fast. Many people say that the only reason the stock market is up is because people think I am going to win. Did you ever hear that? But there was one day, a couple of weeks ago, when they weren't thinking that, and you saw what happened. This will be a 1929-style crash. You know, I have one of the most brilliant men in Wall Street, I think here. I shook hands with him just a little while ago. Scott, where's Scott? Where's Scott? Oh, stand up. This man, will you come up here, please? Just come up here for a moment. He is considered one of the most brilliant men on Wall Street, and he's made certain statements. I'd like him to make them because probably I'd be better off if he made them than me, right? But I do agree with him. But no, he's considered one of the greatest on all of Wall Street, respected by everybody. And I'm not sure he can get through Secret Service. It's gotten very tight. Come on up, Scott. Come on up. Come on up, Scott. Come on up here. Look at him. And he's a nice-looking guy, too. You want to say a couple of words? Come on.
Look, this is the Trump economy. This is the Trump stock market. And I can tell you that it will be Kamala Harris will start with the Kamala crash in the stock market, and then it will be the Kamala crash in the economy. And I don't think that's going to happen. You know, I am convinced that President Trump is ahead in the polls now. He is going to stay ahead in the polls, and that he may beat Kamala Harris by more than he would have beaten President Biden.
Thanks. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Is he central casting? He's central casting. Thank you. Now, he's been very strong on that. He said that if they get in, you're going to have a 1929-style crash. He's been very strong on it. But others have said that, too. And we don't want that to happen to our country. That would be devastating for you, for everybody. On my first day back in the Oval Office, I will sign an executive order directing every cabinet secretary and agency head to use every tool and authority at their disposal to defeat inflation and to bring consumer prices rapidly down. We'll do it very rapidly. When you look at the costs of groceries, the cost of bacon, where it went up 4 and 5 times. Bacon. I don't order bacon anymore. It's too expensive. It will be a whole of government effort to raise the standard of living and make American life affordable again. It's going to really be a very important thing, affordable, because it's not affordable. Even if you're doing a little bit better, you've lost all of your money because of inflation. It's been out of control for a long time. And don't forget, now eventually it's starting to maybe get under control, but you're already up 50, 60, 70% in so many items. You look at car insurance, I couldn't believe when I looked at those numbers this morning. I was studying numbers, and I looked at the car insurance numbers. It's incredible. And that's just one of many. You can go through many. But the groceries, just to put it in simple terms, people go to the grocery store, and they have less than half a deal. In fact, I had something here. I did have something I would show you. Wait a minute. I don't know if you've seen this. I used it once. Oh, I have it. I do have it. Look at this. Look at this. So this is Tic Tacs, right? I don't know if I like the company. I've never met. I have no idea. They're so lucky. Look at all the television. This is the greatest commercial they ever had. But that's what happened. This is inflation. This is Tic Tac. This is Tic Tac. This is inflation. This is what's happened. I just happened to have, somebody gave me this one today. I said, I think we'll put it up as an example of inflation. But you know what? Inflation is destroying our country. It's destroying our families. We will target everything from car affordability to housing affordability to insurance costs to supply chain issues. We have the worst supply chain we've ever had in the history of the country. To the price of prescription drugs. I will instruct my cabinet that I expect results within the first 100 days or much sooner than that. I would say the first 7 days is fine. Car insurance is up 70 to 100%, and you can't get it. You can't even get it. Do you agree with that? You can't even get it, they tell me. Insurance is up 50% or higher. The whole industry is out of control. The insurance industry has never been anything we have never been in a situation with insurance like it is right now. You can't get it, no matter what you pay. But prices will come down. You just watch. They'll come down, and they'll come down fast, not only with insurance, with everything. At the center of our effort to bring the cost of living under control will be the all-out push to end the Biden-Harris war on a thing called American energy. American energy. We will drill, baby, drill. We're going to bring energy prices down. Thank you. And just so you know, they stopped it, and it was terrible what they did. That's what caused the whole problem in the country, even with supply chains. I mean, it just caused a problem. And then they said, oh, go back to the Trump plan now. Now they're drilling. But the day after the election, if they win this election, the drilling stops. They're only doing this for purposes of getting elected. They said, let's go back to what Trump was doing. But the prices are still way high. You see $5 a gallon now for gasoline. And much higher than that in some areas. And we will put ANWR back into service. You know, ANWR in Alaska, it could be the largest oil field in the world. It could be larger than Saudi Arabia. It could be larger than what Russia has. And Ronald Reagan tried to get it. Good man. He tried to get it, couldn't get it. Bush tried. Everybody tried to get it. I got it. And it was tough. And I got it in different times because they stop it on environmental. You know, they use the environment to stop everything, right? You know that. And we're all environmentalists. We want to see what's right. We want clean air. We want clean water. But we don't want to destroy our country. but they stopped it, and we got it going. We got it going. We got it going like never before. It was all set to go. And then think of this, the first week in office, they stopped it. They gave it back. They said, no, we're not going to do it. The greatest, not only great for Alaska, which is an incredible place and beautiful state. They wanted it so badly. Economic development for Alaska would have been so good. But worldwide, I mean, we would have been selling oil and gas all over the world, especially with Asia because of where it's located. So Asia, all over the world, and they stopped it. But we'll start it up again very, very soon. We're going to get it very quickly. We'll get it approved again very quickly. And your prices are going to come tumbling down. Your gasoline is going to come tumbling down, and your heating bills and cooling bills are going to be coming down. You have places like in New England. I don't know how they put up with it. You have the highest costs almost anywhere. Your costs for energy, for heat, for air conditioning are through the roof. And you know why? Because they don't want to put a pipeline through a section of New York that desperately wants it to happen, a very poor area. They won't do it. And until fairly recently, you know who used to deliver them the oil? Russia. Russia ships were pulling up to New England. How was that? Under Kamala's extreme high-cost energy policy known as net zero, you know what net zero, they have no idea what it means, by the way. It's net zero. What does that mean? Nobody knows. Ask her what it means. We're going to go to a net zero policy. What does that mean? I have no idea. She's attempting to abolish oil, coal, and natural gas. 84% of U.S. energy supplied. She wants it ended. Do you think that's going to lift your prices a little bit? Think of that. They're going to take away 84%. And the real stuff, that's the stuff that powers the plants. It's not wind that goes around and around. And darling, let's watch the president's State of the Union speech tonight. I'm sorry, we won't be able to do it. The wind isn't blowing, darling. We have no electricity. We have no electricity, darling. We won't be able to watch tonight. But perhaps sometime during the week it will be blowing and we'll be able to get our television on it. Upon taking office, Harris and Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. They issued orders to close dozens and dozens of existing power plants, and Kamala has vowed that if elected, she will absolutely ban fracking. She said, I'll ban fracking just recently. I'll ban fracking. There will be no fracking. That means that she can't win the state of Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania is all about fracking. That's their biggest industry. And you know what, Pennsylvania, I hope you're watching because that's what she says and that's what she'll do and that's what she'll go back to. She wants to ban fracking and she's wanted it for her entire career. And we're not going to let her destroy our country like that. We're not going to let her. If Harris gets in, energy prices will skyrocket far more than even in Europe. You know, Europe's a basic disaster because they've tended to go a little bit woke, but that's now changing. Have you been watching? That's changing. Inflation will surge into double digits in our own country, and your quality of life will absolutely collapse. Your quality of life is going to collapse under these lunatics. By contrast, she said it already has. Who said that, ma'am? Wow. You look healthy, though. You look very nice. You look very nice. By contrast, I'm announcing today that under my leadership, the United States will commit to the ambitious goal of slashing energy and electricity prices by half, at least half. We intend to slash prices by half within 12 months, at a maximum 18 months. And if it doesn't work out, you'll say, oh, well, I voted for him. I still got him down a lot, but we're looking to do it. We're looking to cut him in half, and we think we'll be able to do better. And every single thing that I promised, I produced. Every single thing. You will never have had energy so low as you will under a certain gentleman known as Donald J. Trump. Have you heard of him? So we think your energy bills will be down by 50 to 70%. How good would that be for a thing called inflation? How good will that be? You know, energy is such a big topic, such a big cost, so powerful, so big. that if you have a donut shop, you have the ovens, you have a truck that delivers the donuts, if you have whatever you do, your heating, your cooling, everything is about that. That's where they really blew it. They blew it with too much borrowing. They blew it with wasting $9 and $10 trillion on the scam, the great scam in history. There are a lot of scams that they worked on. Where's the laptop from hell? Is it around by any chance? But they did it by doing a lot of things. But with the energy, it's such a big topic. No matter what business you're in, you have to heat your business, cool your business. You need cars, trucks to get there and to take the product. It's so energy dominated. My administration will issue rapid approvals for new energy infrastructure, unlock new lands for drilling, and achieve energy independence and energy dominance. So we want energy dominance almost immediately. We were energy independent 4 years ago. Think of it. Today we're getting energy from Venezuela in the form of tar. We're getting it from Venezuela, tar. You ever see what it is to make oil out of tar? They have tar. They have a lot of tar. It's not good. You know where they make it? In Houston, Texas. It's the only plant in the world that can take this material and turn it into gasoline and oil. But no, it's tar, and they're doing very well. You know, speaking of that just for a second, so Venezuela crime is down 72% because they're taking all of their criminals out of Caracas, out of the different places. Their mental institutions are literally closing up. They're taking the people from mental institutions, people from prisons and jails, terrorists. They have terrorists all over the place. And you know where they're bringing them? Welcome to the United States of America. Murderers, drug dealers. And Venezuelan crime is down 72%, but that's only one. All over the world, crime is down because they're taking their criminals and their people from mental institutions and they're putting them into our country because we have stupid people like Kamala and Joe running our country, and there's never been anything like this. And if you look at New York today and you look at a couple of, remember I said migrant crime will be a big subject. I said that a year ago. Everyone said, oh, no, oh, he's so wrong. Do you see what's happening with migrant crime? They make our criminals look like nice people. They do. These are the toughest. These are the toughest people in the world. The toughest people. We built 571 miles of wall, as an example. They could have, and it's more than I said I was going to build, but then I was going to add 200 miles. We had it built, and they didn't put it up. Would have taken 3 weeks to erect. It was all there, ready to put up. Would have taken 3 weeks to put up. And that's when I said they actually want open borders. And Kamala wants open borders. And she said it for 15 years. She wants open borders. She only changed recently when she noticed in a poll that wasn't polling too well. People don't want open borders where people can flow into our country. To further combat inflation, I will terminate Kamala Harris's Green New Scam and rescind all of the unspent funds. Give all of the unspent funds back to building roads, bridges, and give it back to the government. And we won't, it's like throwing, what she did, what they did was like throwing billions of dollars out the window. We will stop wasteful spending and big government special interest giveaways and finally stand up for the American taxpayer, which hasn't happened since I was president. We stood up. We stood up. We stood up. I mean, prior to COVID coming in history, there's never been an economy like we had. Then when COVID came in, you know, we rebuilt the military. We defeated ISIS. Everybody said it would take 10 years to defeat. I did it in 8 months. We rebuilt that whole, we did so many things, and we created the greatest economy. I got a lot of credit on everything, including the economy. When COVID came in, we had to do certain things. We had to make certain moves. And if we didn't make those moves, Scott, and if we didn't help businesses survive for that little period of time, you would have had that 1929 style depression. That's what you would have had. We did a great job. Then when we handed it to them, the stock market was higher than it was previous to COVID coming in. Think of that. It was actually higher. And we handed them something that was a jewel. By the way, more people died from COVID in the Biden administration than the Trump administration, and he got it when it was ending all over the world. It was pretty much ending. So we never really got the credit we deserved for that with the ventilators and all of the different things that we did, the outfits, a lot of things. We were producing in New Hampshire and different places, masks. We had mask factories opening up. We had everything, and we did a good job. And then it came back, and should have come roaring back, but they really blew it. They spent so much money. They didn't have to spend any more money. What they had to do is let our economy take over. But we had some great Republican governors that did a fantastic job. The Democrat governors, not so much. Out of the top 25, as an example, crime-ridden cities, virtually every single one of them is run by Democrats. Think of that. To make both new and used cars more affordable, I will end the Biden-Harris electric vehicle mandate on day one. Doesn't make sense. And by the way, there's a great place for electric cars. They're going to do great. I think they're going to do great. And Elon's heard me say that many times. He still endorsed me. I mean, I wouldn't be able to change. It's a question of how far do they go and how much do they cost and all of the different things, factors. But electric cars have a great place in our country, but you have to be able to really get gasoline-powered cars, hybrids, many different types, diesel. You want diesel with trucks. You know, they want to make trucks all electric. Going to California, you have 6 stops. With diesel, you have no stops. That's hard to beat, right? If they're too heavy, common sense, we're the party of common sense. An electric truck weighs more than twice, 2.5 times what a gasoline-propelled truck weighs, right? That would mean you would have to rebuild every bridge and tunnel in the United States. Oh, that sounds reasonable. It would cost so much money. The United States doesn't have, every country together doesn't have what it would cost. But there's a great place for electric, but there's a place for everything, and you should be able to go out and buy what you want. You go out and buy what you want. To further reduce consumer prices, I will immediately eliminate every single costly job-killing regulation the Biden-Harris administration has created, and they've created a lot. Remember, I took out 12 for every one I created, and we ended up doing more than that. We got rid of so many regulations that were so unnecessary. Some of them were 100 years old. In my first term, our regulation cuts saved the typical American family $11,000. In my next term, the Trump dividend will be even larger. It'll be a dividend. By repealing the Biden-Harris regulatory onslaught, we can save an estimated $20,000. And you're talking about a tremendous amount, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year just in savings. So to get to economic relief to workers and families, we will make additional tax cuts. That's what gave us the great economy. We'll make tax cuts additionally. We'll make them permanent because, you know, we have a thing where they want to terminate at the end of the period when they expire. The Trump tax cuts, 5 years, they want to let them expire. That would mean your taxes would go up 4 times. You'll be paying 4 times much. And we will do something else which was copied, I mean, viciously, ruthlessly copied. No tax on tips, okay? No tax on tips. You know, if they wanted to do that, why didn't they do it 3.5 years ago? They didn't want to. It was actually the opposite. They hired 88,000 IRS agents to go after these people. So for every position the fake new Kamala takes down, and all of these positions, 3 weeks ago, the real Kamala said the exact opposite, the exact opposite. With me, you will always have a president who tells it like it is. You will always have somebody where I let you know where I stand, and you can vote for me or not, but you need that, and you need consistency, and you need brilliance. You need brilliance. She is not a brilliant person. She is not a smart person. She is not very smart. But it is crazy, isn't it, though? Isn't it crazy? She was so disrespected just a few weeks ago, and now it's like, Kamala, Kamala. The fake news. The fake news is a threat to our country. Don't kid yourself. To help seniors on fixed incomes who are suffering the ravages of inflation, there will be no tax on Social Security. We're going to stop it. No tax on Social Security. This cruel double taxation of Social Security benefits, and this has been talked about for a long time. She'll probably announce this on Friday, too. Oh, look, they have a spy in the audience right over there. He's spying. Let's see, Kamala, I think we should do no tax on Social Security. But it only came into existence in 1984, and at that time it only affected a very small number of recipients. But now, nearly half of all seniors are forced to pay income tax on Social Security, and thanks to inflation under Harris, she is horrible. This tax hits more seniors every year, more and more, and they can't make it. They're not making it. They're failing. You know?
That was former President Donald Trump at a campaign event in Asheville, North Carolina, announcing his economic policy ahead of Kamala Harris, who's also set to announce her economic policy this week. It's the first time he's visiting Asheville since 2016, when notorious protests and clashes erupted.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He mentioned how he would not ban fracking, quote, drill baby drill, saying that his energy policies would bring energy bills down 50 to 70%, and that he would start using the ANWR oil reserve again in Alaska. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And please join Tiffany Meyer at the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.